starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
Attention all wrestling fans! Get ready for the ultimate fan experience at the WCBS WrestleMania Fan Meetup in Los Angeles, California from March 30th through April 2nd. This event will bring together the biggest event in wrestling and your favorite podcast, as well as diehard fans from all over the world. This is the perfect opportunity for fans to connect and celebrate their love of the sport as well as their love of us. So mark your calendars, grab your tickets, and get ready to suck it and join us live. Don't miss out on the ultimate fan experience of the WCBS WrestleMania Fan Meetup weekend in LA. And if you're not a wrestling fan, there will be other YouTube creator events, including a trip to the brand new Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios. So listen to World Class Bullshitters Live for more updates, and for more information, email worldclassbs@mail.com. Thebestmail.com, jabroni. Welcome and hail to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight is my co-host, Caffeinated Wolf.
What's going on, Jeff? Hail to the High Council! Hail to the chat!
Yes, folks, hail to the chat indeed. We have a lot of wonderful people joining us and more rolling in at every moment, but we have some members to say hello to, like our friend Greg Kirby, Joseph Bienowicz, Enrique Vasquez, Hank, VP, TLJ Screwjob, Ender75. Let's see who else we got so we don't miss Adama, as well as Shrubbles08 and more. Now, folks like Matt G, thank you for joining our membership program. You guys aren't going to hear the pitch tonight. We have a show to give you guys. So I just want to thank everybody, and if you really like what we do and you want more, join the membership program. But folks, tonight you saw that EchoBaseNetwork will be joining us. Nick's going to be in about 30-ish minutes. He had some other stuff to take care of before the stream, but he'll be here when we get into our Star Wars topics, which is a little more of their wheelhouse over on EchoBaseNetwork. But folks, make sure you subscribe to EchoBaseNetwork as well as all the content creators that appear here on the High Council, because our goal is to entertain you, but our other goal is to help everybody grow. We all want to get those numbers up across the board, so let's do it together, folks, shall we?
Hell yeah!
Now, I would love to start tonight's show on a positive note. I would love to start tonight's show on, man, I saw the best thing in the world. Oh, my life has changed. Oh, I'm actually happy. No. I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That movie, well, we reviewed it here on the channel, and you can hear about that. But, Andrew, I heard that you had zero interest, and, well, I'm here to tell you, man, you dodged a bullet. You really aren't missing out on anything of note.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the MCU ended with Endgame, and I'm good with that. Like, I saw Doctor Strange 2, which was forgettable. I've seen most of the Disney Plus series, which, aside from there being some fun stuff early on in WandaVision, just because I liked the old school sitcom kind of I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke vibe that the first couple of episodes were going with, that was fun. Other than that, like, the MCU Phase 4 was a complete flop. I have zero interest in Phase 5. The only thing that was even slightly memorable for me was No Way Home, and that's only because they brought back Toby and Andrew. I could give fuck all about Tom Holland, though, to be fair, they did leave him in a good place at the end of the film. I will credit them with that much, but I'm good.
Dude, I understand how the outrage machine works. People accuse us of it all the time, but I could sit here and rage about this, that, and the other and try to get people riled up. But folks, it really is fatigue, because it's tiring to sit through this stuff. And so we're not even going to talk about Ant-Man for but another moment, just to tell you guys, like, folks, I know there's an online talk about fans versus critics. Well, me, here at World Class Bullshitters, all of us, we live in the middle of that between fan and critic. You know, at times we're given access to stuff early, at times we're not. Doesn't really change our opinion of anything in life. I got access early to Avatar. What did I give that movie a review? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I want to tell you guys, like, if you listen to us and you enjoy our content, understand I want everyone to be entertained. And I only tell you to avoid things if I actively think they're stupid or not worth your time. This movie is not necessarily the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not even the worst of the MCU by far. But if you got to drop 20
it would
hard-earned
have to
dollars,
surmount Thor 4 for that.
dude, you're right. Thor 4 is worse than
That
this
is
one.
the worst MCU film, in my opinion. That is absolutely the worst pile of dog water that they have put out. That was worse than Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is a horrible movie if you're a fan of old school Carol Danvers, like when she was Miss Marvel and cool instead of an insufferable twat because of Kelly Sue DeConnick. Thanks, bitch. But it's got like you can follow the plot. It's just not an interesting plot or a good plot because she's a Mary Sue in it. She's unlikable. She doesn't struggle. There's no character arc, yada, yada. We've been through all this. We spent an entire freaking year and a half talking about this mediocre at best film, and people made hundreds of videos about it because that's how they made their name. But you could at least follow the plot. Thor 4 didn't know where it was coming from, where it was in the moment, or where the fuck it was going. It was just a shit show all over the place. That is the worst MCU film I have ever seen, and I'm loath to believe that they could beat that.
Joseph Biedowicz, thank you very much. I'm going to need those 5 rounds. And Andrew, you're not wrong. I'll give Ant-Man the nod of it's better than Thor 4, Eternals, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, all of Phase 4 essentially, besides Spider-Man and maybe and Doctor Strange. I like Doctor Strange enough. So yeah, folks, don't spend 20 hard-earned dollars on this Marvel movie that they rushed. Either they rushed or they hired really unqualified people because it looked bad, and there's no excuse. Like, I can understand not everybody liking comic book adaptations or the changes that are made. That is all different. But there's no excuse for the problems that Ant-Man has. It's not like, oh, I took issue with the representation of Scott Lang versus Hank Pym, even though I'm a purist. No. That's not the problem. The problem is a billion-dollar company makes a movie that looks pretty damn good for 2003. Like, if that's the case, if I'm going by 20-year-old standards, then Ant-Man is amazing. But this movie looks like Lava Girl and Shark Boy. That
so
movie that people
it's competing with like season 2 of Smallville.
Yeah, dude. If you want to compare this movie to the CGI in Superman Returns from 2006, you might have an interesting conversation because somehow they render a more realistic human in 2006's Superman Returns than they do anything in Ant-Man. And you want to, one more thing I want to bring up. You talk about Marvel wasting money. There are shots of Ant-Man as Giant Man walking through smoke, clearly CGI. Why wouldn't they just film an actor from a low angle with a camera and use real footage? It would look more realistic. What they do is they CGI Ant-Man at every point they can do it. He's mostly a CGI puppet, and it looks weird. So there's more.
Every single screenshot and trailer that I've seen for the film, because I'll at least keep up, with the conversation insofar as that much, but everything that I've seen, I'm just like, so this is Disney, right? Like the people that got money. What are y'all doing over there? Are you not paying your people? Are your people overworked? Which, yes, is the answer when it comes to the digital effects artists. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, I don't know how a company as big as Disney can justify putting out something that looks that bad in 2023. It seems to me like, and Jeff, you've watched enough movies lately, maybe you can agree or disagree with this. It seems like not only is there an over-reliance on the CGI, but in the instances and scenes and shots where CGI is called for, perfectly fine, but there's just no blending. It's right. Just blatant CGI. They're not putting any effort whatsoever to make it blend in with the practical effects that are shot around it or that it's shot in. It just stands out like Hulk in 2004 when the first Hulk movie came out.
3, yeah, Ang Lee.
Yeah, and it's just, how do you do that in this decade right now? It's really bad. I don't understand it. There's no excuse for it at this point.
Oh no. And with all the money in the world behind them, and this is what they produce, some people think this is a reflection of how they feel about the audience. Oh, we're just going to rush out stuff just to get it out there. That might be the case. Disney has no qualms about telling us how they feel, but I guess they don't care about making us feel stupid, because that's how I felt watching Ant-Man. So That's it, folks. Those are my final words. Ant-Man was not worth your time. Now, Andrew, anything else you want to bring up, please let me know, and I will address it gladly. But I just want to say, like, I've addressed my problems with the film. It is an interestingly bad film for the sake of, its own merit. It doesn't need identity politics. It doesn't need anything to hang itself. It has enough
It's
rope
just bad on a
existing.
technical level. I mean, I know there's that line about socialism or whatever in it, but aside from that, I think people, and this is part of the outrage machine, on an unfortunate consequence of it, people have automatically associated something being bad with because it's woke. Well, yes, in some cases, sure, but things can also just be bad because they're bad. Something can
Yeah.
be bad on a technical level. Something, just because something is devoid of any woke ideology, woke representation, whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean it's automatically going to be a good film. It still has to be a good film on a technical level. The writing has to be good, the shots, all of that, the score, sound effects, CGI, choreography, all of these things. Those are what make a good movie. Making something that's respectful to the source material on top of that makes it a good comic book movie. So you can do two things at once, and people forget that. And sometimes you only get one of those. And I can acknowledge that from an objective stance. So I like to use Aquaman as an example. That's not a good adaptation of Aquaman. I know people love Jason Momoa. I'm sorry, that's not Aquaman. That's not Arthur Curry. He doesn't act like that. He doesn't look like that. And there are a number of other things that they got wrong in that movie in terms of adapting the source material. However, on just the stance of a movie, if we're just looking at it from the standpoint of a movie, if it wasn't based off of something else, and that was just the movie that was presented to us, then that is a fun action flick with mostly enjoyable characters, minus Amber Heard, because she just kind of exists. And beyond that, it's a fine movie. There's nothing wrong with that. It's being able to separate the two, so I can acknowledge both. I can enjoy the movie just as a movie, but if I'm focusing on this as an adaptation of Aquaman, I'm annoyed because you're supposed to be adapting Jeff Johns' work on Aquaman in New 52, which was, despite how bad the New 52 was for DC Comics, Aquaman was one of the better books, and it was like the best the character had ever been. And they failed really badly. But you can do both, and both is preferred, but I think we've lost objectivity in a lot of ways where people are refusing to even acknowledge, like, even if something is just good on a technical scale, they won't acknowledge any of that if it has one of these other things that we like to criticize, usually deservedly so, but we still have to be able to be intellectually honest and multitask in our brains and not just focus solely on the one thing. You can acknowledge that thing, but you can also say, hey, Ryan Johnson shat all over Star Wars lore with The Last Jedi. Yes, that was a horrible Star Wars film. As a film, it's shot well. It looks really pretty. It's got a great score. I can give it that much. But we got to be able to multitask.
Dude, agree 100%. And I, like, even with ML Maven saying in the chat, Quantum Mania was good in my opinion, but it could have been better. I just want people to know, if you disagree with our opinion, still come hang out and tell us. We are not expecting an echo chamber here. So
I'm not going to just call you woke because you decided to like a movie that the rest of us
God,
didn't.
no. Believe me, enough people went crazy that we liked parts of Doctor Strange. So I know how this machine works. Yeah, we're not like that. But no, folks, I stand by what I said, and if those words ring true with you, then avoid it like the plague. But if you're like ML Maven and enjoy the film, more power to you, and come tell me what you like. We can still have that conversation too. I don't need to shut down my brain from Ant-Man just because.
Yeah, what did you
I
like
didn't
about
enjoy
it? Those are the types of conversations we used to have as geeks. We used to disagree about things. Dude, as comic book fans, we used to disagree about individual issues or arcs altogether all the freaking time, or characters all the time. Like, I would like this character in this arc, but you wouldn't like this character in this arc. And we could have conversations about that, but we've lost the ability to do that, it seems.
The thing, you know what, since you asked me about what I do like just in the greater scale of things, Paul Rudd is wonderful. It's hard to dislike this movie because Paul Rudd's optimism shines through, even in those moments of, like, put it like this, Paul Rudd is sort of like a real life Peter Parker. hear me out. I know he's not playing Peter Parker, but there's the joke about him being called Spider-Man in the film. But he's this persistently likable guy that when you watch him be put in difficult situations, you always pull for him. There aren't a lot of good people in movies like this. These good characters. I'm not talking about actual humans. I don't know, but like for example, like the Scott Lang. He's just like a good guy. All the Paul Rudd characters are these good guys. You don't really have a lot of that, so it's hard to have an angry feeling when Paul Rudd's on screen. And he's funny. The comedy in this movie works. I mean, I laughed at Thor 4, even though I hated that movie. There are parts that work there, but there are a lot of parts that work here in terms of the comedy. The Michael Douglas is funny. Michelle Pfeiffer is not, but that's okay. She's not really meant to be a funny character. But like the humor's okay. It's just Paul Rudd, man. I like Paul Rudd. I will watch Paul Rudd in anything. Paul Rudd's
a fantastic actor. Well, okay, so this is kind of a bit off course, but have you ever watched Hot Ones? You know what I'm talking about? Did you see the episode where he was on it?
No,
There is an episode with Paul Rudd on it. There's also one with Scarlett Johansson. Both of those episodes are freaking 10 out of 10. They're hysterical. ML Maven in the chat says, here we go. This is exactly what we're talking about. Tell us what you did like. He said, I would say the father-daughter relationship is done pretty well. Same with the realness of how distant Hope is from her own mother. See, that's the kind of thing that you can pick out and say, okay, maybe this movie isn't the greatest thing in the world, but I was at least able to connect with this part. I at least enjoyed this part. It's important to be able to pick out things. It's important to be critical. Absolutely. We need to be able to critique things and critique them honestly, but being honest about our critique, which means also being honest in that maybe we actually did enjoy something about that movie. You can say it wasn't a great movie overall, but you could say that there was something about it that you did enjoy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, dude, no. And like with ML Maven's point about the father-daughter relationship, I agree. That's the stuff that really blends in with me liking Paul Rudd, because I'm standing there watching what I consider the most likable actor on the planet trying to be the best dad possible, and you're like, all right, I like this relationship, because they don't write him as a douche. Like other movies like Star Wars, they want to write Han Solo as this absentee piece of shit father who whatever happens to him, it's okay because he's this bad guy. He ran off from his family. Oh, he's a terrible guy. But in this movie, there's a couple like digs at him, but like you instantly, as well as the characters, are like, wow, that's kind of uncalled for. But the only reason I feel that way is because it's Paul Rudd. If it was Robert Downey Jr. and that other kid who played his daughter from the Avengers, I would just go, man, Robert Downey Jr. does a really good job conveying emotion. I like Paul Rudd so much as an actor that I'm on the journey. So it's like, man, that was a dick thing to say. Ooh, I felt that. Oh, man, he's really flying high. I'm right there with him. I like the relationships. That is cool. No complaints whatsoever with ML Maven's opinion. I agree, actually. It all rolls into me liking Paul Rudd. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but like he is that movie. And if you look at my film collection, I own a chunk of Paul Rudd movies, even if he's in it for 5 minutes. Or even movies that I don't consider great, like Our Idiot Brother, are elevated by the guy. So yeah, I do have a Paul Rudd bias, but I hope I've conveyed that
there's nothing wrong with that.
Moved it out for this.
There's nothing wrong with that. That was me with Black Adam. I totally get it.
Oh, there we go with Alexander the Great. If you white, you Ben Affleck. Yep, that's a great line from Role Models. I love that movie. I Love You Man's a great movie too as well, ML Maven. I've been watching that. I saw it in theaters the first weekend it came out. I've been, loved it ever since. Got the Blu-ray in the living room. So, yep. Breland Faye says it right. Paul Rudd's characters are so relatable because he's like us. He fucks up all the time. But that's true. And even in this movie, there's a line where he goes, what are the rules? I don't even know how my life works anymore. It's so crazy. And you're like, yeah, that is like us, though. You don't know where your life's going one day or the next. Sometimes this is your path. Then the next day, that's your path. Eventually, you get to where you're supposed to go. But when you're in the trenches of it, it's crazy. And I think Paul Rudd does a good job conveying that, especially in the post-Thanos snap world of the MCU, where Marvel themselves doesn't really know what they're doing. So it's all just a big
they don't have a heck of a lot of likable characters left at this point. So it's important that he's there. It's not enough for me to want to go watch the movie personally, but I enjoyed him in the first two Ant-Man films. I'll give him that much. They're not standout films for me, but I was like, all right, that was fun. I'm glad I went and saw that.
I'll stand by the first Ant-Man as a standout because it's so different and it executes all of its parts so well. Like, I really liked Paul Rudd's relationship with the other actress that played the first daughter. That worked. I felt like he was actually her dad and cared. I loved the heist dynamic. Luis, who's not in the new Ant-Man, is the best part. And so, like, that was all great. I loved the other guys. Like, the rapper T.I. did a good job acting. The David, what's his face? The Russian guy. He was awesome, too. Like, there were so many interesting characters that came together for weird reasons in the first Ant-Man that was unlike shit I had seen before. So I'm not going to tell you it's the first Avengers. I'm not going to tell you it's Iron Man of the MCU. You know, these really considered great ones, or Civil War, Winter Soldier, that type of thing. But, like,
it's certainly rewatchable.
Wow. There is a lot of cat noise. I am sorry.
Holy hell.
Yeah,
they're
we're
freaking
watching,
killing each other over there.
Yeah, we're watching a cat for somebody, and all of a sudden, her and Chip Pancake don't like each other. So if it gets really bad, folks, I will move in a second.
Okay.
But I apologize in advance.
No worries. No, I enjoyed the first film, and I guess my last bit on Ant-Man is I'm upset that we never got a like parody blooper reel short or like a short flick of Luis like recapping the whole shit like of like Endgame or something like that. That would have been the most hysterical thing ever, and that would have been the perfect moment and opportunity for you to insert the meme of what they could have done with Ant-Man and Thanos. You know where I'm going with this. And you could have actually inserted that meme into there with that parody recap. I think that would have been fun as hell.
I would have enjoyed it as well. I like the recap of Luis is one of the biggest things that they have. Like, Kevin Feige claims that it exists somewhere. I think he just got caught in an interview. I was like, fuck, that's a great idea. Why haven't we done that?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to close out the MCU after the next Avengers, you know, whatever, the Kang Dynasty, unless they digitally recreate Stan Lee in a CGI format, and he literally closes the book of Marvel, looks into the camera and goes, "Nuff said," there's not a better way to end the MCU than to have Luis go, "Oh, Jesus Christ, that cat's annoying." But there's no better way to end the MCU with out Luis going, "Well, there was this great guy called Iron Man," and then he just literally tells you the whole story. Like, I would sit through that. If that was the post-credit sequence, sign me up.
Yeah, I'd be here for that. 100% here for that. Jesse needs to fence a new cat.
This is just day one of this shit. So if we only have 4 cats next week, one didn't make it out alive.
All right. There it is.
Let me pull up the show notes real quick, because I do have a couple things I wanted to talk about to make sure I don't miss anything tonight. Folks, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button if you're listening to the show live. If you're listening to the show after it goes live, hit that thumbs up button as well. It's not about our egos here at World Class Bullshitters. Believe me, they're big enough. We can see them a mile away, and so can you. But it does actually help us with the algorithm. What it does is it lets this computer program that runs everything let you know that you enjoy the content. So getting a thumbs up takes you about 5 seconds, but it lets the YouTube algorithm know that, you know, people like WCBS and they want more listeners to find WCBS. And that's what you guys want, because the community is the best part of everything. It's great to make videos. It's great to do live streams, but it's great to hang out with hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands of people on streams, hanging out and shooting this shit. Yeah, the chat gets crazy and it's hard to keep up, but that's one of my favorite parts. So folks, spread the word and hit that thumbs up button, because it does everyone good here in the community.
Absolutely. It sounds like cat hell in the cell over there.
Dude, it's like Elimination Chamber. It's Chip Pancake and the new cat underneath the futon, and Jane, Chip Pancake's actual brother, is standing in the doorway watching.
Wow. It's just watching.
Yeah, he's the scaredy cat.
Wow. He wants nothing to do with it. That's funny.
Now, Ant-Man is the start of Phase 5, Andrew, but they announced last week after the High Council that they're going to slow production, cut back production with Marvel properties, and while they move things forward with Star Wars. Now, we're going to wait for EchoBaseNetwork to get here to talk about the Star Wars elements of all that. But when it comes to do me a favor, Andrew, clarify what you asked with the question, because I'm confused with what you meant in the chat. But when it comes to Phase 5 with Marvel, things like Ironheart and Echo are getting pushed back indefinitely, it seems. So, basically, what I would ask you, I asked you your thoughts on the critics versus fans in the box office. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the box office. Ant-Man still cleared over $100 million. This is what Marvel fatigue looks like on on a holiday weekend. It still brings in the money.
Yeah, though it is important to note that it is actually still seen by objective analytics as super slow out of the gate. It actually is performing worse than Black Panther. And that's with it actually having the benefit of a Chinese release. And then on top of that, if you look at the inflation amount compared to how the other 2 Ant-Man movies were doing, as well as just the inflation amount to where when they started filming this movie, and therefore the amount of money that they borrowed, to finance the film versus how much that money is worth now, like there's actually a real uphill battle for this movie to be profitable, like actually take home money profitable for Disney.
See, I wish people would actually look more into the finances on a deeper level because, yeah, $121 million opening weekend. Yeah, but there are bigger things to talk about. Even the Hollywood Reporter put out a thing about how it's a cautionary tale because, yeah, it made the most of the MCU or of the Ant-Man trilogy, but it's bad critic score and whatever. It has all of the signs of bad legs. And so people are trying to write this thing off already. What are we, 5 days into the release? They're like, it made a lot of money, but it's kind of dead.
Well, to your point of what you were saying, where Bob Iger said they're going to start scaling back and shifting things around in the timeline of when they're releasing these projects, there's burnout. And I want to be clear, it's not burnout on superheroes, it's burnout on bad superhero content. If all of the stuff that Disney was putting out was gold, nobody would have anything to complain about in terms of they could be releasing a new blockbuster movie and a new freaking Disney Plus series every single quarter, and nobody would be complaining because it would be good content. But that's not what they're doing. They're giving us mediocre to crap, and therefore there's burnout on the quality end. There's a content problem specifically in terms of quality, and therefore they're seeing diminishing returns on their investment here, and they've already for years been overspending on these projects. Like we keep hearing, every time they announce a new either Star Wars or MCU Disney Plus series, or really you could also point at things like Rings of Power. Like what are a lot of the tabloids always talking about? Like, oh, wow, this is the most expensive show produced, blah blah blah. Yeah, and what happened? They didn't make shit off of it. They're overspending, and they've got to cut way the hell back on that. That's a huge reason why they're spreading things around. They don't actually give a crap that fans don't like it. They give a crap that they're making less money right now and that they've been spending a ton.
Dude, you can hear that the battle's back. The cats have found each other, folks. We are here live at the fucking pussy fight of the century. Shit Pancake versus the other cat, whose name escapes me at the moment. To be honest, I never learned it in the first place. But, folks, we will be tuning in. We will keeping you up to date with all of the fight updates here on World Class Bullshitters as the cat now leaves the couch. I apologize, folks, for the background noise, but I'll make some fun of it while we're in the process.
You'll have to play the part of JR.
That JR. I was like, dude, nobody's going to shoot me on my show, are they? I was thinking
no.
JR from Dallas.
No, dude. No. JR, WWE.
Good God Almighty. Whew, you almost gave me a heart attack there, King. Woo. I'm glad you brought up the point, though. People do pay attention to quality. It really is important. Sometimes it's because they don't respect you. Sometimes it's because they want to rush things out. I can understand any creator or creative team that's small and independently funded. These types of complaints and critiques, in my opinion, in my opinion, should not reflect a smaller person, because it's like, for example, Ant-Man has $200 million behind it. If Joe Blow's movie on Netflix had $35 million, that's still a lot of money. But, $30 they might not be producing these CGI heavy laden films. Or let's say, for example, some low budget superhero movie comes out like a Punisher movie, and it's great and it doesn't have CGI in it. Again, that might resonate better, and it might just be a cheaper thing to produce, which is the end game for Marvel, is to make a profitable venture out of any of these things. And
what good is any of this if it's not profitable? If you're not actually taking home much money, then you can brag about how much you spent until you're purple in the face, but that doesn't do you any good if you didn't make that money back.
No. Avatar, all Avatar is a hype machine for how much money it can make. That's why James Cameron really is a winner to bet on. His movies are fine. Let me rephrase that so I don't sound like a fucking idiot. His classics are as great as everyone says. He changed the world with Terminator. He revolutionized Aliens. He really created a lot of great iconic work. But Avatar is just a tech demo. It's meant to look pretty, and it's meant to be talked about in a certain way. How much money goes into it, how much time goes into it, and how much it makes. It's literally, that is the cycle of Avatar. Not if it's good. It's never been about that. It's always been about, and fans care about how profitable Avatar is for some reason. That's fine. You're not making yourselves richer. You're making a handful of people richer. That's not my prerogative to judge. But we've really removed ourselves. That's one of the things that Avatar's done. We talk about, how has Avatar really hurt the film industry? In that way. We don't really talk about if it's literally, they'll have everything to throw at you, and then you stand there and go, is it good or not? They used to give you fucking critical things on the TV. It's like, movie of the year, movie of the decade. These four critics say it's so great. And you have people's names and faces and opinions that go with this shit. And a lot of times they talk about the story or they talk about the, performance. It's now, this movie cost so much and it made so much. And we talk about analytics, and I love to talk about them because I think analytics are an indicator of true success, because there's a thin veneer of bullshit that permeates every discussion on, not permeate, but coats every discussion of entertainment.
Right. Well, there's an important bit that you have to also take into account. Yes. Should the movie just be good on a technical level and an objective level that anybody with knowledge of the industry can kind of universally agree upon? That's important to have those standards. The other thing I think where you were going is, well, did the audience have fun? Did the audience enjoy it? Do they want to see it a second time? That's also important. You can have a movie that's great on a technical scale, but if the movie wasn't fun, it's not going to be successful. It's not going to make money. People aren't going to go back and see it, and they're not going to tell their friends to go out and see it.
No.
And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing diminishing interest in even the general audience. And this is something that I was talking about at least a couple of weeks ago here, and I talked about it with Mary and WDW Pro over on his channel about a month and a half ago. These companies have decided to shun, or at minimum ignore, longtime fans of these IPs in exchange for catering to your normie general audience, because the normie general audience just cares about being a part of the conversation, being a part of whatever the latest topic of conversation is. And so they're going to go see it. They're going to go see Star Wars. They're going to go see the latest MCU film until they're bored, until it's no longer the super in thing and their interest starts to wane. Then you see a massive dip. You see, they thought that they had a dip in interest and a dip in profitability when us longtime Marvel, DC, Star Wars, etc. fans started dropping out of supporting these projects. But now they're seeing a dip in even the general audience, even the normies that they catered to for several years now, that they exchanged our dollar for theirs. They exchanged that for the short-term profitability that they thought they had, that they thought they could take advantage of. Well, normies and general audiences are just that. They're fickle. They, like I said, they just want to be a part of whatever the hottest thing is. So they will eventually, whether it takes 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, they will move on to something else. And what are you left with? Well, you pissed off and insulted and shunned your longtime guaranteed supporters, and you've now lost the interest and dollar of your general audience. Where does that leave you?
In the toilet.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's funny. It used to not matter because there's that Hollywood Reporter piece that came out discussing this where I believe it was Bob Iger, maybe it was Kevin Feige. One of them said they need to be more profitable now, which I go, why was that never the case in the first place? But it was the magical, wonderful world of Disney at Disney World and Disneyland, and that's where they were able to do all their bullshit. And that's not the case anymore. And so the gravy train, its brakes fucking hit hard. That shit is locked in. I don't know what Disney's doing now versus pre-pandemic or whatever. That's WDW Pro and all the fine people over at that park place. That's their information. But we love to stream with them all the time. But my point I'm trying to get at is they used to have an excuse to make more money. Now these things have to be profitable on their own. And I only ask you this because I've asked myself this question. How much of this was truly good? How much of it was hype? And when they actually do try in the future, will it change our perception of what Marvel was? And it's a very loaded question, but
are you referring to the MCU as a whole? So we're talking from Jump Street, we're talking from Phase 1, Iron Man.
Yes, I'm asking. I'm having. It's a more difficult layered question.
The whole bitch. Okay. You know, people have. There's this weird fanboy mentality that always has annoyed me, even as somebody who considers themselves more of a DC guy, and that's mainly because I own more DC comics. I'm more learned on a lot more DC characters and teams and lore and things like that than I am Marvel, outside of Spider-Man, X-Men, and Miss Marvel, the real one. But there's this, for the last several years, there's been this weird thing of like DC fanboys when it comes to the films versus the Marvel fanboys when it comes to MCU, and they each have their criticisms of each other. In a lot of cases, both of them are right, in that there have been, yes, some absolute cookie cutter MCU films. The DCEU has put out a lot of garbage. There's been very little that's redeeming about that cinematic universe. But as far as the MCU goes in particular, I will say, as somebody who considers himself someone who does put, I just had that long ass spiel about how it's important to be objective. It's important to be able to acknowledge something that's good from a technical level, just on an objective measurement standpoint, that anybody can actually adhere to that and come to more or less similar conclusions, with some leverage here and there. But I do consider myself a comic book guy first and foremost. I do want adherence to source material first and foremost. And the MCU, for those first 3 phases, there was some iffy here and there, but by and large, they did a good job. And most of the movies, I will happily go back and rewatch. If somebody says, hey, you want to rewatch Guardians 2? Sure, yeah, let's do it. You want to rewatch Winter Soldier? Fuck yeah. You want to rewatch Iron Man 2? Okay, but do we have to? Can we pick something else? But I'll still do it. Like, aside from Captain Marvel, I will rewatch anything in Phase 1 through 3 without much pushback. And even then, if somebody were to be like, hey, do you want to rewatch Captain Marvel? If these were the options, you want to rewatch Captain Marvel, Thor, Love and Thunder, or what's another super shitty one that comes to mind immediately? Or do you want
MCU films?
Yeah, I'm trying to
Eternals.
Think. Or oh shit! Honestly, out of those 3, I would sooner rewatch Captain Marvel. Out of those 3, because it's the most coherent as a film, even though I hate it, even though it's not good. I'll rewatch it before the others.
Of those ones, I guess, but I
I'd still rather pick something else. I'd rather pick anything else in phases 1 through 3 over that, but I'll rewatch it before either of those other 2. So I think that the MCU actually did do a good job early on, and they were successful because of that. We saw that. They were successful not just with the general audiences. The majority of comic book fans had fun with those. Yes, we'd have our critiques here and there. Absolutely. And those are valid, 100%. I wouldn't sweep those under the rug by any means. But it's important to acknowledge that we as comic book fans still, by and large, had fun with them. Yes, Iron Man 2 and 3 aren't great. I'll still rewatch them, and I'll have a fine time.
Number 2 just doesn't appeal to me anymore. I want my board.
My board. Honestly, I get a freaking kick out of that. So I'm fine with that.
So I'm looking over the show notes. I feel like we've really blended 2 of our Marvel topics tonight. So let's check in with the audience and continue the one, because I wanted to ask your opinions on the whole. I don't know how to say it. They made Karen Gillan's Nebula look like a dude on the Guardians trailer, and there's a lot of people talking about it. So
yeah, let's check in with the chat and then wade into that mess.
Oh yeah. So first off, thank you very much. We have one from Shrubbles08 that says the word of the day is fatty. Fistful of fatty. How Stella got her fatty butt back again. Star Wars: The Rise of Rey's fatty butt, and Fatty Bear.
Fatty Busters.
Fatty Busters.
It sounds kind of like Weight Watchers.
Yeah, it sounds like a parody of Weight Watchers. But, doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Let's see what other fat titles are there. Fatty Pig in the City, since we're going to be mean. That fucking just works.
Fatty Boys.
Fatty Wars.
Fatties in Black.
That's you know what? That's so mean. Oh man.
Oh shit.
One of these days on the show, we should play a game called How to Ruin a Movie Title and Its Legacy by adding a word. So I just I just realized that if you make it Men in Blackface, no one will ever watch it or talk about it again.
Oh shit. Does it star Justin Trudeau?
Yeah, dude, how did you know? Oh, you've seen the movie. I think we downloaded the same picture.
I think we did.
But I digress. Thank you, Shrebbles08, for always being here for our word of the day. Shrebbles08 also sends in another super chat that says, I'll take a Joe Rogan Slapnuts and a Back to the Future Doc Brown. Hail, Jeff and Wolf, the House of Trouser Snake. Well, hail to you.
I'm going to slap you, Shrebbles.
We love him. Folks, thank you very much for joining us. We have another message from TLJ Screwjob after I press these buttons. So first off, we need a Joe Rogan Slapnut. Of course. Let me just scroll down to it and get you set up right here.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
It's Mr. Flatnut to you.
And then, here's your other request. Oh, that poor car. That poor guy. His poor family. TLG Screwjob, thank you very much. And I can't do the voice, but to quote Jimmy Stewart, now I'm no big city CGI expert, but about Jeff's CGI smoke versus real smoke, wouldn't they save millions on the real stuff? Yes, they would save millions of dollars on the real stuff, TLJ Screwjob. I don't understand the overabundance on CGI. Maybe they think audiences won't recognize the Marvel look, and they think that their movies have to look fake, or they have to have a certain style. Like, look, Marvel should know better than anyone. You don't only have one style. This isn't 1965 and you're going to use Jack Kirby, because he's the workhorse that he is, to develop your style. Or John Romita and have a house style for decades. No, this is a movie. These things are supposed to look and feel different, kind of like books are supposed to look and feel. You know, if you pick up a Jim Lee book, that is going to be a Jim Lee book. Everything looks a certain way. But that doesn't look just like... who's another contemporary? Fine, a Todd McFarlane book. We'll stick with image guys. They don't look like a Rob Liefeld book, or they don't look like a Will's Will's Portasio didn't do anything. But you know what I'm saying? Like, those books, they're all comic books, but they all look different. Not all Marvel books all look the same, and I don't think all the movies should look the same. There should be, like, I liked how Captain America looked and felt real. Winter Soldier, that movie was very gritty. The action was all done in camera, and it is really a great movie that stands up. And the CGI that augments those scenes makes the real world feel even more fantastical. So I'm more engrossed in a deeper story, or I'm more engrossed in that world than I am Ant-Man, which is more fictionalized and fictitious and crazy, because I can't relate as much. I missed when things were relatable.
Absolutely. And something that Captain America Winter Soldier did that was so poignant is it was proof that you can blend real world ideas, real world topics that people can connect to, but do it in a way to where everyone can connect to them, not just one political party, not just one of the genders. It doesn't matter where you come from. Everybody could watch that movie and be like, oh yeah, your government prepping nukes and shit that could be pointed at law-abiding citizens potentially at any moment. That's kind of a freaky thing. Maybe everybody everybody should be concerned about that equally, right? That was doing that and handling that properly. Very, very few things these days do that.
Very few things do. I don't like to keep ending every segment with "it's so sad." It's just frustrating and kind of annoying to watch something that used to be so good and so exciting bring a feeling of dread. I don't like that. That's the part I'm the most disappointed on. It used to be fun, man. Now
it's because we're comic book fans. We should be excited about this stuff. Like, it's actually sad that a new comic book film gets announced and I couldn't be bothered to give a shit.
Dude, I guess we're of age, meaning we're old enough to remember. It's like, oh, they announced a comic book movie. Hell, like that'll ever get made. Oh, it came out. Oh, it was whatever, but hey, that's the only one we're ever going to get, so let's go watch it again. Like, we're well beyond those days of having to accept what's thrown in front of us just because. Now the geeks get to be selective. And realistically, geek culture is just pop culture, and it's been like that for far too long to try to even separate it. And that's a good thing. I do like when everybody knows Spider-Man. I do like when everybody knows who Doc Brown is or how fast the DeLorean needs to travel. Like, I like that all that stuff is out there. I just don't like the excuse that companies use that now that it's everywhere, we need to make more and make shit. That's it.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you.
Now, folks in the chat that are very confused by the image in front of you, we're going to talk
the dude
about...
on the left.
Yeah, that's Batista.
And why does he have Nebula's face?
So, there's been a lot of talk about this, and I thought we should weigh in because, well, it's what we do. Now, folks, you probably heard that there was a small blip of controversy, if it's even considered that anymore, about the Guardians of the Galaxy poster with Gamora because she looks like a dude. And there's a picture of Guardians 3 with Nebula, excuse me, because Nebula is, standing there like a man. And there's another photo of Nebula, clearly not. Now, I don't go into comic book movies looking for any sort of titillation. I go in looking for, besides, fun, high action, I look for how to turn a drawing into a real life thing. That's the number one thing I'm always going for. How close can they get it to the comic? That doesn't necessarily mean everything needs to be designed like that, but it needs to have a certain feel. So the picture on the left of Nebula honestly looks like any dad bod dude that you would see at your cover band Battle of the Bands. Like, oh man, this guy looks like he's going to be the best drummer for that Bon Jovi cover band that you've never heard of. Like, that's what this looks like. And over here looks like Karen Gillan, the woman. And, Nebula can have different body parts. Nebula can be replaced with a new arm or a new eye or a new whatever. But that's the story. Any decision, you gotta remember, folks, this isn't a small operation. This is Disney with thousands of employees, tens of thousands. If they're laying off 7,000 people and it's just a drop in the bucket of their workforce, that is what it is. But this is an effort. There's, at this level of art and creativity, or lack thereof, at this level of creation, there is not a lot of shit that goes under the radar. And
yeah, I'd be hard pressed to believe and be convinced that this was an accident and a mishap. That would almost be worse, because it's like, wow, how lazy were you that you just didn't care? But that is a man's torso. That is a man's chest. That's not a woman with a flat chest. That's a man's chest, and that's a man's hips.
Yep.
The two pictures there could not be more disparate.
No, you could not. And I'm looking at, first off, beyond the thing that I know, the body of Nebula, the first thing I notice is that head is photoshopped. Like, that head does not match that body.
Yeah.
And we're living in this age of digital manipulation, which is great. It's great that you can, oh man, we left the wires in frame. Well, let's just digitally paint over them. You'll never know they're there. Oh man, an extra walked into frame on our best take. Well, let's just digitally paint them away. There are great ways to use the computer to make your films better. But there's also this weird obsession with trying to, like, Frankenstein a picture. And that's what I'm getting with this. It's like the Indiana Jones trailer. That is not his body. That is not his head. Those are two different people being photoshopped together to create this one image.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing with this, because for anyone that wants to say, oh, it could just be her standing in an extreme pose. Yeah, you could, but you would have these hips do not match. This is not the same body.
No, I'll call back to the song. The hips don't lie, man.
No.
Those are a man's hips. And look, not getting political here, but if I was a woman, I would be insulted that something that actually contributes to, we'll say, female representation is just ripped away there. It's like, oh, well, let's just make him look like a man. Well, then why are you bothering to have a female?
Exactly.
I mean, look, Karen Gillan is a beautiful young woman. There's no reason to take what you have on the right here and replace it with the left. There's no reason to do that.
No, not at all.
Like, this is not, that body on the left is not the body that belonged to the chick that was in the Jumanji reboot, or that has been Nebula for the last 10 freaking years.
And that's why I'm really commenting on it the way I am, because it's like, this is a change for a weird reason, or this is a change, like, this isn't a natural part of anything. This is, I don't want to phrase it because I don't want to sound like I'm some tinfoil hat guy, but it, like, the powers that be at Disney, the corporate structure, they want this, and I can't get behind it for two reasons. One, the number one reason, honestly, is because it's inconsistent with what came before it. I am equally bothered by all the undertones of all this, but I'm bothered that you make a movie and you just willy-nilly change the body, or change this, or change that. And this goes into my point about comic book movies having a certain, like, when I go and I'm expecting certain things, like when I made the comparison, like, I don't want Jim Lee books to look like these books to look like those books, and I don't want all Marvel movies to look the same, but I do expect certain hallmarks. I do expect a strong hero. I do expect a certain type of woman. And I mean, like, literally the physical representations of that, because it's about comic books have always been about peak physical appearance. That's all they are, really. What people don't even know is a lot of the skin-tight costumes, you're wondering why superheroes wear that shit. Of course, strong men and stuff in the older era, but because they were in such a rush, it was faster to draw a body and put a circle and call it a bodysuit than trying to draw gloves and gauntlets and boots and belts and all these other things and accessories. That's why a lot of your
the fabric changing how it fits in certain places and all of these things. Yeah, absolutely. That takes way more time and effort.
Yeah. And you know, that's, sorry, I was like, but I got what I'm saying. No, but that's the thing, though. There's hallmarks of the art, and I expect that to be translated, and that's why, you know, I'm just like, why would you change in your own marketing, your traditional comic book body type that offends no one? Because, Andrew, I thought the offense was like, oh, they're showing too much skin, or it's too this or too that. Like literally, Nebula's
she's
covered
showing
from the neck
her
up,
arms.
and one of them's robotic.
Yeah, so she's showing arm. Oh no, careful! She might be showing wrist soon.
It's weird and it's gross. Like, not like I'm, fabric of our country destroyed kind of gross or anything like that. But it's like, do you think we're stupid not enough to notice? And do you think that some of look, also too, if your audience is mostly male, what are you trying to sell us? You want us to buy stuff, right? You want us to go see your movie because of the pretty people on screen. But then you want to, I don't know, make a statement about this and
Well, yeah, let's just put it on the table. Let's be real about it. There is a reason why female characters, whether they're heroes or villains in comic books, have always had a physical allure to them. Because the vast majority, it's not to discount female comic book fans at all, but the vast majority of that fan base is male. And what do males want to see? They want to see attractive women. They want to see attractive women that they'd want to be with. And they want to see dudes that they're like, I kind of want to look like that. And I know a lot of people that I actually have a pretty good friend who's a massive comic book fan. And he has spent years honing his body so that he looked like Nightwing. Because that's his favorite character. And he wanted to look like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the female fans that were already fans, they were already here. They liked it as it was. You didn't have to change anything.
And to bounce off one of our comments in the chat from Sam Adams, I hope they don't expect any returns on the merchandise from the movie. Let's share some merchandise images because they just dropped today.
Oh boy.
Would you believe that the merchandise paints the much different picture? It's the traditional Nebula style body that's in all the merchandise.
Yeah, that looks like it's Nebula with the freaking Guardians in the Galaxy full costume on.
Yep.
Like that's the full uniform, not her normal thing that she wears otherwise, but when she's in uniform. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it looks how it's supposed to look, but it doesn't line up with the weird poster art. And this is what I wanted to ask and tag this more at the end, but do you think this is just James Gunn trolling people? Do you think this was created to gauge outrage and see how angry fans would get, and that's how they can gauge how excited people are about the movie?
So like he's playing some 4D chess? I don't know. I really don't know. If it is, I think it's a foolish move because there are enough people. You mentioned the term earlier. The outrage machine is real. You had people who were like, if there's one movie in Phase 5 that I am remotely interested in, it's seeing the final James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you put something like this out there with your marketing, those same people will be like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to take my money with me.
It's a silly situation, but EchoBaseNetwork, Nick, have you heard anything about Gamora's body change, or do you have any comments on how they've tried to, I don't want to say desexualize because it makes me sound like I'm trying to make some kind of like political statement, but basically, how do you feel that they've like covered up any kind of titillation in entertainment?
I've seen the pictures. She looks ridiculous.
Yeah, if it can even be called a she at this point.
Yeah, the thing is, this is, and this is just my opinion, but I feel like this is part of the agenda that people in not just people in entertainment, but mainly the far left weirdos are trying to push, which is blending the genders. To where everybody is equal and the same. And in reality, that's just not the case.
Yeah.
That's something they've been doing for a while. And unfortunately, I think it's just going to get worse. But yeah, I saw the pictures and I was just like, she looks ridiculous. It just looks like, some guy with dad bod cosplaying is her.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the ladies in the chat, because I know we have some ladies that are fans of the show. We appreciate you being here. I'll pose this question to you: would you have been half as interested to go see Aquaman? Because that movie did very well financially. Would you have been half as interested to go see that if they had cast Zach Galifianakis? It's Zach Galifianakis. I almost said I tried combining him and Jack Black, as opposed to Jason Momoa. The answer is no. I already know this, but like we go to see these characters and we expect them to be an idealistic representation of the human figure.
Yep.
Because that's part of what makes them super. I'm not going to go to a freaking Supergirl film and want to see Lizzo, okay?
Ugh, gross.
I want to see Kara Zor-El, my second favorite DC character. You know?
Yeah, but you're just a bigoted racist for saying that, man.
No, if I want to see a freaking sexy black chick, I'll watch
Don't
Storm.
be fat shaming, man. What's wrong with you?
Freaking Storm, man.
No, look, I'm just giving you shit. You know how I feel about this too. But I would watch an Aquaman film starring Jack Black as Aquaman, because that would be fucking insane.
Yeah. That would be a funny comedy for sure.
It's got to be a musical comedy.
Oh,
it literally
God,
has to be him. Like, you treat it like Robin Hood Men in Tights. Remember how they had the singing men in the interstitial parts or whatever? You have Jack Black narrate all the exposition in song as Aquaman and treat it like this big fucking production. I would love to watch that. Oh my God.
What was as long as it's not weird, the weird comedy. Like what was the animated movie that did where all the food in the grocery store talked?
Oh, Sausage Party?
Yeah,
God.
Sausage Party.
I ran away from that movie like I was running away from the devil himself.
Oh, it was so terrible. I was just like when I saw the trailer for it, I was like, oh my God, this looks freaking hilarious. And then I watched the movie and I was just like, God, that was so dumb.
That
we
movie
reviewed
looked
it
like
back
something
in the
that
day.
I would have been able to hear my brain cells committing suicide in real time.
Yeah. I know a couple people that liked it, but they have a very different taste in humor than I do.
Now, here we have an interesting message from the chat from Code Black. He says, you guys are making a point. I'm a young dude. If I go see a superhero movie, I want the chicks to be hot. They can be badass, but I want them to be hot.
God,
This is
freaking Black
entertainment.
Widow.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord, that they freaking milked her sexiness as much as possible through the whole first three phases of the MCU. What was it?
Well, that's part of the character, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
Black Widow, Natasha, she's a freaking femme fatale.
Yeah.
She leans into that. That's part of what makes her so effective. And that's something that gives her an edge over, a male spy that would be of the same caliber and skill, because she has tools at her disposal that the male spy wouldn't. That's something to be lauded.
Yeah.
That's something to be taken advantage of.
And all the women that they have now in the MCU moving forward are just, most of them are just like plain Jane. Sort of like what they did with what's Gamora's sister? What's her name again?
Oh, Nebula?
Yeah, Nebula. Yeah. Like there's not any that I've seen.
I bet Gamora is actually going to get killed in this movie.
Yeah. They even made the Wasp character boy haircut and
that makes me mad. Like,
I'm
how
just
the hell?
Ugh.
Like, that is actually a beautiful woman. What in the actual hell did you go and do?
Yeah, it was so dumb. Even, and I'm fine with girls with short hair sometimes, just depending on the person. Like Kira from Deep Space Nine, she had short hair, and I thought she was still fairly attractive in the show. But in the few episodes where she did have longer hair, like so much better.
Yeah, agreed. One of the few things I actually do know about that show, but I think it's so interesting, though, that Code Black says, I'm a young dude. I want to go see these movies. They can be badass, but I want them to be hot. This is the conversation we were having 20 years ago with shit like Underworld, and we had reached the nice medium.
God,
You remember how it used to be back in the day? The conversation wasn't, man, there are no more... People don't go see these female-led action movies. What's the problem? It used to be, why do people go see these shitty action movies with women in the lead? Because they're hanging out of their skin-tight suits, and people lined up to see them.
Yeah, because Kate Beckinsale is hot as shit. That's why.
Yeah. That's
the reason why I own that whole damn movie saga on Blu-ray.
and we got to remember, this is an entertainment business. It's not offensive to, like, it's a piece of art. It's all intentional. They didn't hire Kate Beckinsale and just throw her up on screen. No, they made her up. They did the costume. They did all this shit. Everything is meant to make these things look a certain way. And so it's not sexist to critique a movie. You're talking about the actors. Like, I've never once gone on about Mila Jovovich being X, Y, and Z. All I'll say is those Resident Evil movies suck ass after a certain point. Mainly the first one being the only decent one. But again, those were movies that made hundreds of millions of dollars with women in the lead and everyone. It's like the conversation about, feminism in movies and entertainment has killed their cause or whatever they were trying to do, because there's less. People want less of anything now. It's like people were more. It's actually the problem of today. People were way more accepting and open to shit 20 years ago. So let's just take it back to the 90s. It was a much different time. People were a lot happier to. The unity, like the Rick James song or something. People were just happier with each other. People were more accepting. Something happened with the internet where we tried to refix the problems that had been fixed, and it all fell apart. And I think that's what this kind of stems from.
Yeah. We went from people wholesale going out and watching women in action films on any level, because the films were maybe at least fun and it had a hot chick in it, and that raises the bar, and that's just how it is. Look, you can be mad about it, but that's just the facts. Get over it. That's biology. But now we're at a point where certain people I should say, see a female in a lead role and they automatically assume something because Hollywood has led us to that conclusion so many times. We now have historical precedent over the last handful of years. We've gone from expecting a badass, attractive female lead and having fun with her kicking ass for a couple hours to now expecting some preachy boss girl, Moamman power nonsense that's for one, usually an unattractive person, at least in terms of how they do up the character, but also just the character themselves, the characterization. Not a likable character. There's no arc, there's no growth, there's nothing to latch onto, and therefore you're not going to get people going and watching that. And what happens? Well, the movie doesn't do well, the TV show doesn't do well, and then they bitch about my sexism and blah 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 blah. No, we had no problems supporting y'all's asses 15 years ago. You just stopped making stuff fun.
Yeah, it's the weird thing about society in the U.S. nowadays. Other countries don't let this stuff go down like this, but it's big here. I just saw a freaking video of a trans guy the other day talking about how straight men need to date trans women more because they're bigoted or something. It's like, no, dude,
I'm not gay.
we don't like dick.
I'm not gay. Sorry, I'm good.
No, you're not a woman. Sorry.
Now, hold on, too. Isn't it kind of strange when you force people to do things they don't want to do naturally? That's a bigger problem I have.
There's actually a word for forcing somebody to have some sort of relations with you against their will.
Yeah, Wonder Woman 1984 is what we'll call it here on the channel.
Yeah, we'll call it an 84.
I skipped that movie after I saw your review on it, Jeff, and I was just like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, and the first Wonder Woman was the first the first DCEU film that I walked out of going, that was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I didn't mind the first one. I love
the first one.
Blown away but I was like, oh, that was actually not a bad movie.
The third act is kind of weak.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Otherwise, I love that movie. And Gal Gadot is,
Oh yeah.
Oh, she's great. It's like
chef's kiss.
they've only had a handful of Wonder Woman stuff ever come out, and realistically, I understand that Adrian Palicki played her on that failed TV show that never even got finished, and then there was, I think, Lindsay Wagner played her once or twice, but Wonder Woman's only been played really in live action by 2 people, and they're both great. It's really nice to have the conversation, who's better, Linda Carter or Gal Gadot, and in reality, all you're saying is, who do you like more? Because they both did a good job.
They
and
both did a fantastic job. Yeah. The issue with Wonder Woman 1984 wasn't Gal Gadot. The issue with Wonder Woman 1984 was freaking the writing. The writing was horrible.
Yeah.
Dude, I can never go back to watch that one.
No, pass.
Yeah,
hard pass.
I'll
Not
never
interested.
even begin to start to watch that one. Hell, I still haven't made it through
all the time.
I still haven't made it through Doctor Strange 2. I've tried watching that movie 3 times, and I've fallen asleep every time.
Oh wow.
You know, I call that a film for Sam Raimi fans, and if you're a nerd for Sam Raimi like I am, like every little layer works. But if people aren't, I can definitely see why that one's a hard sell, especially with the multiverse stuff. I think that's where the biggest problem is coming. Trying to sell a multiverse that is, I get it, I'm a nerd or a geek or whatever you want to call it. Fucking, I like this shit. It's not that hard to actually figure it out, but I do think it's too confusing for the general audiences, and that's going to make this a lot muddier and murkier than I plan, or than they foresee it.
I just hate the whole. I'm not against the multiverse, but the whole time travel timeline thing, I'm just like, I didn't even like it in Endgame.
Yeah, well, it's because Endgame is one of those movies where I enjoyed it in theaters, and then upon repeat viewings, it kind of lost its luster because I was able to watch it more objectively without the hype of seeing a midnight release, and you've been looking forward to this thing for X amount of years or months, whatever, and just watch it more objectively, and it's really easy to pick apart the plot to that film, and it's kind of a mess, actually.
Yeah, like I thought it would have been a lot better if they would have just over time, built their forces back up, made new connections with other characters, and they went after Thanos, found him, found the gauntlet, found the stones, and then snapped everybody that got snapped away and brought them back, instead of this whole quantum time travel thing. Like, I was just like, oh. And same thing with the Loki show when they started doing that with Kang, and then from what I've heard from Ant-Man and stuff, I'm just like, man, I'm just not a fan.
That Loki show was abysmal.
Oh, it was so bad.
It was so bad, which made that show. Not even Tom Hiddleston could save that show because the writing was so bad.
Yeah, and I liked him.
Yeah, no, I love Tom Hiddleston. The writing was so bad that there was just no glimpse of the Tom Hiddleston evil charm that he brought to Loki that made the character someone you loved to hate.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there. It was non-existent. Not even he and Owen Wilson combined could save that film. I was just, or that film, the TV series. I was just like, this is almost unwatchable. I hate this.
Oh, then you're really going to love Ant-Man because they're in it.
I heard.
Are they really?
I heard.
Yeah, the post-credit sequence is... It's funny how there was an article that came out and people were like, oh, is Loki going to get canceled next because of the whole, Marvel cutting back? They're like, no, because Loki's been filmed. This show, Loki, clips of Loki are used as the second post-credit sequence. And to me, Loki is a show that's almost great and almost awesome. It's almost all these fun things. It needed to cut a lot of fat from the beginning. And for it to succeed, Loki needs to be a simple adventure of the week time-hopping show featuring Owen Wilson and and Tom Hiddleston. Because for me, I love Owen Wilson. I think he's funny as shit.
Yeah,
Owen Wilson's hysterical, dude. I love Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights.
Wedding Crashers.
That's my movie right there.
Wedding Crashers with him and Nick Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn.
You motorboat son of a bitch, you old sailor, you dude. Wedding Crashers and the 40-Year-Old Virgin really ushered in
Oh
modern
God,
comedy.
yeah,
Like,
40-Year-Old Virgin.
2005 was
Great.
such a good year for movies, bringing it back
Yeah.
to Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
But like other things, we've removed ourselves from like that level of comedy, that level of whatever the high we were chasing.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to sound like the nice one because I sound silly, but like I didn't dislike Loki as much as you guys, and but I really liked it towards the end when we got the alternate timeline and we got the stuff with Kang, because if anything, it was the first time where we finally got a look at the big picture, and that's where Marvel has always lived and grown for me, because I don't remember how early it was. I take it back. From the very first Iron Man, you knew the Avengers was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You didn't really know what that meant. You just knew the Avengers were coming. Okay, I'll get excited. Cool. And then after the Avengers, Thanos is coming. Oh man, that movie I just saw was awesome. There's more. I'll be back. And everyone showed up. But then it was like, well, this story is awesome and it's over. Well, the story's good. It's over. Let's move on. And they want you to come back with the same excitement. And that was the first time after months of meandering bullshit that I got to look at the bigger picture. And so I went, oh, here we are, finally.
Sure,
So
you can do Kang. There's nothing wrong with that. But the quality of the individual pieces still has to be there.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And it hasn't. It just flat out has not.
And the thing is, I will give you this, Jeff, on the Loki show. It definitely became more interesting to watch at the end of Loki when he came into the picture and stuff. I still didn't really care for the show, but it did become more interesting when they brought him in.
Good old Agent Mobius.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I heard the movie that he was in, Devotion, about the Korean War, was really good. I don't know if you
I
guys
haven't
have
seen
heard
that
of
one.
it. I heard it's a must watch. I've heard from tons and tons of different people. The guy who plays King and what's his
Jonathan
name?
Majors.
Yeah, Jonathan Majors. Yeah.
He's solid, and I didn't dislike him as Kang. Ant-Man's one of those movies where it's like you can separate the actor from the writing, and you have to, because it's like Kang is written kind of dumb. There are things he does, you're just like, why? But you can't really blame the actor because it's just him doing his job. And so he's good enough. Like, I like him. I would go see. If I wanted to see Creed 3, he wouldn't be a deterrent. The only reason I'm not seeing Creed 3 is because I haven't seen Creed 2.
Creed 2 was good. I liked it.
I love Rocky.
Yeah. God, I can't believe you haven't seen Creed 2. When Dolph Lundgren and Rocky see each other again for the first time, like, oh, such a good scene. I love the second one. The second one I don't think did all that great. I can't remember, but I liked it. The only reason I'm not seeing the third one is because Stallone's not involved. From my understanding, he kind of got pushed out, even though he technically, for PR sake, stepped away. From the rumors and from what I've heard behind the scenes, he kind of got pushed out of the project because they didn't want to do what he wanted to do.
I hadn't heard that. To be fair, I haven't seen either of the first two Creed movies. The last Rocky film I saw was it Rocky? Was it Rocky 4 that was the one that came out in the early 2000s?
Rocky Balboa.
Yeah,
Rocky
Balboa.
Yeah, that's the one I saw. And I was like, all right, it's a good film. Prior to that, I had only seen the first two. So I went from seeing the first two to then seeing that one. I was like, all right, well, that was good. I enjoyed watching it with my dad. We had a good time, and that was that.
You hadn't seen Rocky 3 or 4?
No.
Oh, dude, you're missing out. God, those are such good movies, man. 4 is my favorite. I love Rocky 4. It's my favorite Rocky film.
Rocky 4 is such a fascinating movie to me. For one reason, I enjoy it. I like what's on film. I have nothing really to take away from it, but I find it interesting to talk to people who were there for it when it came out versus people, and I mean the right age for it too. Because Nick, you're slightly older than I am. That was the thing, is it captured the tone of what America needed. The whole Cold War,
at
Soviet
the time,
thing.
Cold War was going on, and all that. And so when that movie came out when I was a kid, like everybody rallied around that film. you know. And then the speech at the end during that time, you know, while Reagan was in the White House and stuff, it was just, man, people loved that film, and it did really well, and it's my favorite to this day. It might not be the best Rocky film per se, but it's my personal favorite just because of the memories and I have.
There's
of
nothing
growing
wrong
up
with
and
that.
stuff. Yeah,
I'm the same way with Star Wars. I acknowledge that the best one is pretty universally held as Empire, but my
Yeah.
favorite's Episode 1 because that was
Yeah.
the one that I got to see first. What was I, 9? I think I was 9. I saw that in theaters with my dad.
yeah,
You know,
back
like
in
opening
99
weekend.
99.
Yeah, opening weekend, and so that was a big deal. That was a formative experience for me. And so there's
Yeah.
a lot of extra value, intangible value that is added on to that because of the experience.
Yeah, I'll talk more on that when we get to the Star Wars topic because it's related to what we're going to be talking about later.
Well, you know what? We'll use that as a good transition.
How's
Let
that
me
for a
check-
segue?
Yeah.
I love it.
Nixon
Let me
expert.
check. Let me check in with the audience real quick, and then we will move on to our next topic. Hey, Nick, would you pick a number between 1 and 69, please?
Ooh, let's go with let's see, my birthday's coming up, so let's go with 44.
Ah, okay, 44. 1, 2, skip a few. Here we go, 44.
Has the jury reached a verdict? Hold it! Billy, I need your help, man. All right. Axel!
I'm sorry. We're all out of bananas.
Axel? Don't go.
Honey, wake up.
What? Oh, I had that dream again.
That's
Oh
freaking
my
great.
god, I love Beverly Hills Cop. Man, I hope this show that they're doing, is it a show or is it a movie that's going to
It's a
streaming?
movie.
Yeah. God, I hope they do it justice.
I joke, Star Wars, Luke Skywalker's treatment, all that stuff that we've talked about on the channel really does hit home. But Beverly Hills Cop will bother me a little more because Beverly Hills Cop has always felt like a personal favorite. Like, I don't really talk to people. You can't talk about Beverly Hills Cop the way you can about Star Wars. Star Wars is more of a shared experience. It's, Luke is as much of mine as it is yours and this and that. But I don't really talk to anybody outside of people saying, Beverly Hills Cop was great or it was cool or this or that. I've kind of just watched that movie repeatedly my entire life. So I love it. And that'll be, like Indiana Jones, it will fucking sting to really watch Axel, because 3 sucks. But
Oh
we
god,
live
it's
in the
so
modern
bad.
age.
It's so bad. I
Darren,
actually went to the theater and saw 3 in the theater, and I was so pumped. I was like, "Yes, another Beverly Hills Cop!" And after that movie ended, I was just like, what did I just watch?"
Dude, Tom from Midnight's Edge tells a story how the studio wanted a comedy, but Eddie Murphy was like refusing to be funny at the time. And it shows on film because that is not a fun movie to watch. That man
No,
is a good actor, but that was not one of his finer performances.
no, definitely not.
No, Hank VP in the chat, I do not want to be Axel Foley in real life. I don't want my best friend to get murdered in front of me, and I really don't want to be a Detroit police officer. Never been my calling in life. Now, Trace XL's back, says, shit pancake knocks out the other cat off the back of the couch. JR says, that's it, she's dead, she's been broken in half. Oh shit, that reading just woke shit pancake back up. So you don't look happy, pal. Adama, thank you very much for your super generous super chat. Adama says, what are your guys' favorite non-traditional superhero movies? My favorites are Push with Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning and The Losers. To me, they're a different take on a familiar story.
I actually quite enjoyed Push. I think Hancock had its moments. And I'll probably catch some flack for this. The concept, and I think it's because the comic books that it's based off of handle it better, but the concept behind Jumper was cool.
Yeah, man, God, if I had that power,
And the actress's name is escaping me right now, but the
Hayden
actress
Christensen?
the actress
Oh, sorry.
that played his girlfriend in the film, she's a cutie.
Let me look that up real quick. If it is who I think it is it Rachel Bilson?
That might be it.
It is, because he married her in real life.
oh,
Did he really?
Yeah, they have a kid and a farm and all this. I don't know if they're
What
still
the
married.
shit?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I knew a little bit about Hayden Christensen because he seems like a really decent guy that is just in a whatever movie. But long story short, Taken or Jumper. Yeah, he's married to her, or at least was. And yeah, they've been together. They were together during the movie. And this is the end of Hollywood gossip talk here on World Class Bullshitters. Oh my God. To answer your question though, was it Adama that sent in a super chat? Thank you, Adama. My favorite non-traditional super comic book movies are Ghost World and Men in Black. Have you guys ever seen Ghost World?
the animated / real life one with Brad Pitt.
That's Cool World.
Oh, Cool
That's
World,
that's
yeah.
another fun movie.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen Ghost World.
Ghost World is probably the least comic book film ever made. It looks like a weird, because it is a weird indie movie, but it came out in 2001. It's got Scarlett Johansson and Thora Birch and Steve Buscemi, so at least one of those names went on to be in the proper superhero films. But it's just the story of two girls kind of going through the end of high school, transitioning into college, and Thora Birch is obsessed with Steve Buscemi, who's this like weird kind of sad character. And so it doesn't seem like a comic book movie in the slightest bit, but I like it. And then I looked into the book. The book predates the movie. The characters kind of look like the actors, and it's funny and well paced, just like the movie. So that and Men in Black, and you've seen Men in Black, so I don't have anything else to say about Men in Black.
Yeah, my I don't my two probably favorite really non-normal superhero movies that I can just think of off the top of my head's probably Darkman and I don't know, would Kick-Ass be considered?
Oh yeah, Kick-Ass is.
Yeah, I really liked Kick-Ass.
I did too. I thought Kick-Ass. I saw that when it first dropped back in, God, was that 2010 that movie came out?
I think so. It was a long time ago.
I've just been realizing how fast time flies. Jesus. Anyway, long
Yeah,
story
Darkman
short,
came out back in the that was back in the
I think
90s.
it's 1990.
Yeah, I think so. That sounds about right.
Because that was a Sam Raimi creation that gained a lot of traction post Batman, you know?
Yep. Yep.
I remember catching that movie as a kid. You talk about movies that scare people. Darkman scared me as a kid because of the concept of the being burnt alive and having to just look like that was very shocking to me as a child. Yeah. So,
and Liam Neeson, who's in that movie, looks very young in that movie, and he's also part of tonight's topic.
Dude, yeah. We'll keep reading because it's like Star Wars. We're almost there. Star Wars. Believe me, I want to talk about it too. And Andrew, that article you sent me about James Bond was news to me. I had never heard that story, so thank you.
What was it about?
Did you know that Liam Neeson was approached to play James Bond, but his then wife, or soon-to-be wife, did not want him to play James Bond? She's like, if you play James Bond, I will not marry you.
What? So, I would have been like, bye, bitch.
Because he was constantly, James Bond constantly is getting in bed with all the ladies, and she wasn't a fan of that, and so.
Yeah. I mean, you're marrying an actor. I mean,
to be fair, she was an actor too, so
oh God, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, I do find it interesting because both parties understand what it takes to be an actor, and you understand, like, outside of George Lazenby playing Bond, I don't think James Bond, the actors were actually sleeping with the women on screen. Connery was married. Roger Moore was married. Dalton, I'm pretty sure, was married. And Pierce Brosnan, hell, his first wife was a Bond girl. She sadly passed away to cancer. Then Pierce Brosnan got remarried either right after he started playing Bond or right before. Long story short, that was his thing. I read that article and I went, I'm glad you loved your wife that much, or the woman that much, that you wanted to make her your wife and you had this wonderful life, but that just felt like a really thin reason.
And he did tragically lose her.
Yes, that
Yeah,
was sad.
yeah, in the ski accident.
But like,
yeah, didn't John Cena actually bang some chicks on screen?
it was rumored that it was Amy Schumer, but it's
Yeah, that's who it was. Amy Schumer. Yeah. Wow, dude.
I mean, I know that he does in the what the hell is the name of that movie that he was in that he does that? I can't remember the name of it, but I know that he does it in the movie, but whether or not he actually did it is a...
Oh, Trainwreck?
Is that what it is?
That's the John Cena movie you're talking about?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think he's only in one movie with her. Cena Trainwreck. From 2015. Did he really bang her? I hope not.
Gosh. No wonder he had to get hair plugs afterwards.
It's funny when you type in did John Cena sleep with Amy Schumer, you get did John Cena win? No, he didn't win here. According to
that would be
Hollywood
an
Life,
L.
there is an article talking about how John Cena was really doing it, but I don't want to. That's gross. Never mind. Let's talk about Star Wars, shall we?
Yeah, I don't need to think about Amy Schumer.
Trace XL,
Or John Cena with that little pretty skirt dress he had on, and those images from last week.
I saw those and I was like, "What the hell are you doing, man?" Like,
yeah.
And I don't mean like, "What the hell is he doing?" I'm like, "What is the role you're playing?" Because you're already established. You don't need to play, Santa Claus with muscles or the Tooth Fairy or Mr. Nanny anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I look at wrestlers as the guys that you kind of have to pass the torch down. And so the guys that came before Cena, and I'll give Batista that credit, like Dave Batista's not putting himself in the same situations that John Cena is as an actor. And I respect that because at the end of the day, I like these guys most as pro wrestlers, and anything that makes wrestling look shittier than it actually is makes me dislike that thing. But anything that can make it look stronger makes me like it. And I think Cena, long story short, I think Cena is undoing the work that guys like Hogan and Rock and other people did before him to look, or Roddy Piper, to at least have a chance to act. I think he's just going backwards now because he's trying to curry the favor of Hollywood.
I remember when I was growing up, because I've liked wrestling ever since I was like young, like elementary school, and every single time I'd see Hulk Hogan in a movie, I was just like, wow, Hulk Hogan's in this movie. Like, oh, I got to see it. All of them, I was just like, oh, he is not very good. Even as a kid.
I'm old enough to remember a time when John Cena was criticizing The Rock for acting in Hollywood.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Big
And
old
then-
hypocrite.
Yep.
No.
Fuck you, Cena.
No.
I'm in the Cena sucks crowd.
Oh, dude. You know how I feel about that. I mean, we have buttons about it. Should we press one? It's a transition.
Let's press it. Let's do it.
All right, so let's press the
Let's
John
do it
Cena
and then
button.
talk Star Wars.
Yeah, we're going to get to Star Wars, folks. The thing is, the people are still here. They keep showing up, so they're like, all right, we'll get to it eventually. Whatever they're doing is cool.
Yeah.
But we get to press the John Cena, folks. The John Cena button, folks. Now, be prepared. If you're listening with headphones, this one is a little loud. So I want to get everyone ready. In 3, 2, 1.
Who's that Pokemon?
John Cena!
God, he looks so weird in that last image
Because
where he's
that's
on
after
video.
that's after he had his hair plugs.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because he had a big old receding hairline.
God,
And
dude,
he just
he
got
should
the
have
money to
freaking
fix
just
it, I guess.
freaking rocked it. Said F them hair plugs, because God, he looks weird.
I mean, not everyone can afford hair plugs like Chavo Guerrero and look wonderful, but yeah, the Cena stuff, like I said in the past, it really bothered me with... The reason I don't really like Cena anymore is because you sold yourself as Mr. America for a decade plus, even though you never saw any active duty, you never saw anything. You're over there, literally. Your introduction
dog
is
tags on and shit.
Yes,
where he used to come out in the camo trunks, or either the camo shorts.
Yeah, and he used to just salute and talk about his gimmick was chain gang soldier, camo shorts, this, that. And he was Mr. Rah-Rah pro-America, going over to the troops, doing all that stuff that everyone respects. And so I guess I'm really just a big wrestling fan underneath it all, but it bothers me to see that, Mr. America was just Mr. Advantageous. The guy's as fake as they come. I would love to interview John Cena and say this to him and hear his response, but I'm sure it would just, I don't know, be overlooked quickly.
Yeah. Sad and unfortunate.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't really like John Cena that much anyway as a wrestler, so it's fun to dunk on him because
5 moves of doom.
I can take credit for this because I actually did get it started. That whole John Cena sucks singing chant. There's videos of us doing it years before it ever caught on, and we got it started at WrestleMania 34. But we've been doing it since 2010? We used to go to all these events around the country and sing that song. About 5 of us. So
that's
finally
awesome.
Took off. Yeah. The best part though for me is not that it's on TV. I really don't. It's not about the ego thing. I just like that everybody does it, and I love that when it happens, John Cena responds to it and waves his fingers like a conductor. It's me, it's like my way of saying I hated you so much. Me and a group of friends, and everybody in the world got together to tell you suck. Thank you, John Cena.
That's a good way to look at it.
And it was a good way to transition into our Star Wars talk. Trace XL, we will read your super chat in just a moment. Thank you very much for your patience. And thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. Folks, hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that you enjoy the content. You being here is enough for us. We're happy. We love that you're hanging out in the chat. We appreciate all the super chats and all the messages and all that stuff. But we're just happy to have a good time and put on a good show. YouTube needs that extra validation. So for its sake, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button because we all win from it. And now the cats are back fighting. Shit Pancake is back into the fray. He's under the couch. He's fighting the other cat. Nick, you've walked into an interesting show tonight, man. We have 2 cats. We're babysitting a cat, and this thing is trying to fight my favorite cat. So it's interesting, to say the least. Now, let us talk about Star Wars. Because, Nick, you have a wonderful channel called EchoBaseNetwork where you guys put out great content all the time, including wonderful Star Wars-based documentaries. And it is not a stretch to say you like Star Wars. It's not a stretch to say millions of people like Star Wars.
We're a fan of the IP. Huge fans of the IP. Not huge fans of what Disney's doing. but we're holding out hope. We're one of those people, the battered wife that it keeps going, oh, he didn't mean to push me down the stairs that time. It was an accident. We are those guys, beaten, battered, bruised, and we're still holding on hope that it gets better because we're such huge fans of the IP. But, it's Disney Star Wars, so it is what it is.
It is. Again, I apologize for the background. Now, Andrew, we've talked a lot about Star Wars together, but one of the things we like to talk about is, well, the stuff that goes on around the franchise, because it's no longer the property of who would win in this lightsaber duel and what ship is faster and what's a parsec in relation to this. No, it's Disney bought it, it turned into something else, and it has become insufferable. Star Wars has become the little brother that you really, really, really wish would just fucking go away, but he's your brother and you can't do much about it. We all love Star Wars. Nick, you really hit the nail on the head with the whole battered wives thing. And so tonight what we're going to talk about, folks, is the upcoming slate of what they've announced and what that means for Star Wars overload, as well as our opinions and what we're excited for in the future. Yeah. So the other day, an article dropped. That's very technical of me. But about 4 days ago, an article dropped where Bob Iger was talking about Star Wars and Marvel and how Star Wars Marvel needed to slow down because there's too much out there, and Star Wars was going to ramp up production, meaning there's going to be more of it, even though the brand needs to be curated. So I'm very happy with less Marvel to calm things down, but the news of more Star Wars really makes me wonder if they've ever learned anything this entire time, because what's coming isn't even exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what on that entire list, that slate that they have announced of what's upcoming down the pipeline is even remotely something that legitimate Star Wars fans are hyped for? Like, nothing.
No. Right now, besides The Mandalorian, there's Ahsoka and the Skeleton Crew. There's also Taika Waititi's Star Wars project, as well as Damon Lindelof's Star Wars project, which that's the one that concerns me the most.
So the Lindelof thing, that was not an official release by Lucasfilm. That was a leak. So that actually might not ever happen.
I hope
Hopefully.
that's the case.
Because I had the same concern when I heard it. But apparently, people at Lucasfilm that want Lindelof to actually do a Star Wars movie leaked that information to the freaking reporters and shit to kind of push that story out there so that they could use that and be like, hey, this is leaked out there. Maybe we should look into it or whatever, or try to bring him on and actually make this happen, when there's actually never been any plans for him to do a movie whatsoever. And that's coming from some other alleged inside sources at Lucasfilm that no project with him has been greenlit at all, or even talked about.
Don't forget about Rian Johnson's trilogy, guys.
Yeah, Rian Johnson's trilogy has been talked about officially by Lucasfilm, but everybody knows it's never going to happen.
Are you sure? I thought it was coming out next week.
Yeah. Now, actually, tomorrow. It's coming out tomorrow.
Oh, good. I have nothing better to do on a Wednesday. Let's first chapter, garbage and bullshit. Chapter 2. Why is there chapter 3? I don't know. Look, the Rian Johnson trilogy is the stuff you tell your kids to make them behave and go to bed at night. Listen, kids, if you don't act right, Dad's gonna go make sure the Rian Johnson trilogy gets made. You're going to Star Wars when The Last Jedi came out.
I'll go to sleep. I'll clean up my room. Fuck.
Yeah, please.
Shit, yeah. I'll roll over and go to sleep. I'm like, look,
I'll eat my Brussels sprouts. Shit.
Yeah. I'm sorry, please, not more Rian Johnson. Like, realistically, they've been talking about that since before it came out, and nothing's gonna happen because money talks and bullshit walks, unless it's world class, and they have not produced. And so, the Lindelof stuff, I keep hearing articles, or I keep seeing articles pop up about the race conversation and how they want to cast a black lead and have a black female and make it a very focused story. But I thought to myself, Star Wars has had black leads since 1980. Star Wars has had black female characters for a long time. I don't understand what Damon... If this is a real movie, let's just act like it is for a minute. Yeah. Outside of trying to get people angry and outraged over that information, I don't see what you could do with that story and try to actually pat yourselves on the back of creating something new, because the audience, at least I'll speak for a portion of the audience, we don't really care about your allegory for racism in the Star Wars vein. Nah, man, put that in something else. This is Star Wars. This is fantasy, not science fiction like other shit. Is it working with Lord of the Rings? Are people fighting back with that shit? Maybe it's trying to put modern politics in fantasy. Realistic, it doesn't matter if it's high fantasy or medieval fantasy or space fantasy. It just doesn't fit.
Is it just me, or didn't Kathleen Kennedy come out and announce that there was going to be a Lando series? Whatever happened to that shit?
It's coming out right after the Rian Johnson trilogy, I promise.
Yeah, probably. They're going to be filming at the same time.
I'm really, and I'm sure I can speak for everybody here when I say this, I'm so sick of this whole virtue signaling mentality that people in these IPs, specifically with Star Wars that we're talking about right now, try to reach out to. Oh, we're going to have a POC lead. This is going to be the first black person in Star Wars. The fuck have you been smoking for the last 30 years?
Yeah, have you even watched Star Wars?
Have you watched nothing? Like the whole Reva thing in Obi-Wan, and I'm not going to go on a rant about Obi-Wan because that show was dog shit times 10.
Don't even get me started.
But the Reva was not just not the first black character, not just not the first black female character, but she was a blatant ripoff of another female person of color in the Star Wars universe from a very recent video game, Jedi Fallen Order. She was a shitty Dollar General knockoff of the second sister, Trilla Sudari, from Fallen Order. And it pissed me off because Trilla is a motherfucking badass character and extremely well written, extremely interesting, and has a good
that
arc.
game.
I fucking love that game so much.
Can't wait for the second one.
Serious. That is the only Star Wars thing that I'm super, super hyped for.
Yeah.
But also, like, that same game had Seer Junda, who was a black female character, and she was a fantastic character. We've had Mace Windu. We had freaking Lando. We've had all these characters in the past. You're not doing anything new. They're doing this. They lead with that because the normies and the people who have literally never consumed Star Wars before in their lives, so they haven't seen the movies, they haven't read the comics, they haven't played the video games, they don't know that all of this shit has already been done. There's no new ground being broken here. Those people who aren't actually fans of this shit to begin with suddenly are like, oh my gosh, look at this. We can point to this. Star Wars doing something so new and brave. And also the normie writers in these mainstream access media publications, like your CBR, your Screen Rant and whatnot, they can say the same exact thing. And then the normie people, it's a cycle. The normie people, the normie general audience goers, they see those articles and like, oh my God, look what Star Wars is doing. The rest of us are just sitting over here like, bro, have you never Star Wars'd?
The answer for most is no, and you know this.
Yeah,
I'm sitting over here like, bro, I played KOTOR like 4 times back in, was it 2002?
Oh, there's all kinds of black characters in that game,
and I'm like Jolie Bindo, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know what they're doing over there. Again, at the end of the day, it's fucking Disney. Corporate overlord agenda pushers that are just trying to virtue signal and make themselves look like we are the salvation of humanity. We're on everybody's side of love and caring and all that, just and they don't care about any of it,
They don't. Yeah. They don't. It's in however many years, like they have become a brand to avoid for a large portion of people.
Yeah.
There's no way their lagging sales or their lower profits or whatever dictate, oh, everyone loves everything they're doing. They're just having trouble financially. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of people having issues. And there's also a lot of people that just said, I don't like this anymore and move on. It's kind of the circle of life, to use another Disney reference on these people. I'm really happy to hear, though, that they're focused on quality and they want to focus on quality and lower the production numbers because,
yeah,
dude, Taika Waititi Star Wars, what is that going to be? Well,
comedy,
it's going to be like Taika Waititi Thor, which sucks.
Yeah, Thor,
dumb shit.
Thor: Love and Thunder and Star Wars.
Don't you absolutely love a movie that has no stakes and it just tells you jokes every 5 seconds because
jokes that aren't
reasons?
Funny.
I actually liked Ragnarok as a one-off, but after that, I'm like, I'm ready to get back to serious Thor,
Yep.
Badass serious Thor, not jokey, fat Thor, but yeah, I don't want to see Taika Waititi do something with Star Wars because it'll be a joke just like the sequel trilogy was.
The only way I could be behind it is if he were to remake the. You know how everyone was talking about the sequel trilogy remake that was coming? That I will watch it if he remakes it because it can't be a bigger joke than it already is.
No. I think the only thing that he could make in Star Wars that I would be even willing to consider watching would be like the fucking holiday special.
Yeah,
Like,
or
don't
something
touch
on,
anything.
or something on Jar Jar and the Gungans.
Yeah, he could do that. He could do that. That's fine. That would be entirely inoffensive, though he would probably put some like really weird jokes in there that would feel out of place, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, with Star Wars and the fandom is you can put some like Andor, you know, it's Andor. You know, there was no like OG Star Wars characters involved in that really. I mean, you could say Mon Mothma, who had a very small part in Jedi, but she wasn't like some main character like Vader, Luke, Obi-Wan, you know, or whatever. You know, but then you got Obi-Wan, which just did so much damage to the IP. You know, it's like Andor was definitely a better show, and even Book of Boba Fett or Obi-Wan was a better show than Book of Boba Fett, but
right from
Obi-Wan
a
did more
technical
damage.
perspective, but yes, it did more damage.
Yeah,
that
it did more
I
damage.
make that same comparison when it comes to the sequel trilogy. Like, The Last Jedi is a better movie from almost every measure than Rise of Skywalker, because Rise of Skywalker is a narrative shit circus. Like it doesn't know it's the Thor Love and Thunder of Star Wars. It doesn't know where it was, where it is, or where the fuck it's going. It's just all over the place, and it's incomprehensible. It is absolutely atrocious. Whereas The Last Jedi, you can follow its story. Its story isn't good, and it did way more damage to the Star Wars IP and to the fandom than Rise of Skywalker did. But it's still a better movie from just a objective technical perspective.
You know,
and a lot of people like throw heat because of me saying that. It's like, oh, how dare you say that about that as Rian Johnson attached? It's like, dude, I'm acknowledging the damage that it did to the IP. I acknowledge that as a Star Wars film, it's horrible. It's the worst thing ever. But as a film, it is still better than Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
that's where that objectivity
you can follow. Rise of Skywalker was all over the place.
Oh God,
all over the place.
It's unwatchable.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing. If they're going to hit on any of these OG characters, they got to do it right. You know, like when they brought Luke back in Mando season 2. Overall, the vast majority of fans were pumped and excited.
You had your nitpicks for sure.
That. Oh, I had my nitpicks for the whole entire season 2 of Mando.
Sure. I mean specifically the Luke season in the
the CGI. CGI was kind of weird, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
But the badass Luke, you know, freaking wrecking people is the Luke that we wanted to see in the sequels. Mm-hmm. And that's why people were so excited to see it, because we never saw that Luke post Jedi. You know, we saw him at the beginning. Yeah, he took down Jabba's henchmen and all that sort of stuff. And then he fought Vader. But anything outside of that, we never really saw. You know, in the prequels, we saw Obi-Wan and Anakin and all the Jedi fighting, you know, all these people and doing all this stuff. We never got that from Luke. And people wanted that from Luke in the sequels, you know, to be like that Gandalf type figure that was, you know, the older, wiser, but could still like kick ass. And, you know, and we never got it. And we never got any more Star Wars, obviously, after Jedi, you know, in the timeline directly after. So we just never got to see that badass Luke, you know, who for a lot of people, you know, grew up and that was like their childhood hero.
Yeah,
you know?
He had spent a few more years training, honing his skills, and now we see what he can do. And, you know, he did not disappoint, at least insofar as taking down the Dark Troopers. Now, there are some people who had some, I would say, legitimate criticisms of like, okay, canonically speaking, if we're comparing the Dark Troopers in that to how the Dark Troopers were in the EU, yes, like even Luke would have had to struggle a bit more than just what he was doing and cutting through them like butter. But I think the point to that was having a contrast to what fans had gotten in the sequel trilogy and having like, okay, here's Luke being a badass here. Just just take it. Please enjoy it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it felt like to me. And I had fun with that scene. I can do two things at once. I can acknowledge, yes, okay, if this was the old EU, which I wish was the thing, trust me, I wish that was what we were working with here.
Right.
Then Luke would have had to fought way harder. He would have had to struggle. Dark Troopers are no joke. But that's not what we have. And I was happy to see Luke actually kicking ass. And I'm not even a Skywalker guy, actually.
Yeah.
I like Luke well enough, but I'm not a Skywalker guy. But it was good to see that scene and be like, okay, cool. You didn't make him a bitch.
He didn't just go, these dark troopers, let me just throw my lightsaber over my shoulder and just get back in my X-Wing and fly away.
Yeah, Dark Trooper didn't have a bad dream, and so he decided, I'm going to, bitch out.
Oh, Luke Skywalker. I still like the character. No matter what Disney tries to do, the Luke Skywalker spirit of the original films works.
Yeah.
I feel he's a great character, he never gives up.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I've seen a lot of other content creators in the YouTube space that are like, I can't even watch the originals anymore. All of Star Wars are done.
I'm not black-pilled like that. I can't do that.
Yeah, nothing that they do. Even when George Lucas came out the prequels, which I was not a big fan of at the time, I like them a lot better now than I did at the time, especially after the sequels came out. But even when those came out, my love for those original 3 movies, I could literally after the stream go sit down and put any one of them in and watch them from start to finish right now.
Dude, I was going to watch it last night. The only reason I didn't is because I got a little too tired, but it took me, after The Force Awakens, I had to take a 6-month hiatus from Star Wars. And then
it's probably
realized,
a good
thing. I needed it desperately because I was living in a world where everyone liked this movie and I didn't. And I thought I was fucking crazy. I thought, what happened? And so I got back into Star Wars, and then The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi came out, and I felt normal ever since. But no, I don't want to say this. Actually, I will say it. If you gave up on Star Wars because of a couple of bad movies, then it was never the greatest thing you claimed it was. Because yes, you got to have a break from things. But it doesn't mean I gave up. I'm back. New Hope's my favorite.
Yeah, and the thing is, some of the content creators that I'm referring to, which I'm not going to name because they are friends of mine, but they'll say that about Star Wars, but then another IP that also has shit content out there, they'll keep watching that. And I'm like, bro, you won't watch any Star Wars, but you'll watch this horse shit series, from this other IP that's complete garbage. Like, all right, that which is fine, but it just shows me that you weren't really that big of a Star Wars fan to begin with.
Yeah,
and I could say that, and I get it because I'm the same way with Star Trek. I love Star Trek, but I'm not a huge Star Trek fan. After I saw, I was excited about Star Trek Discovery, watched the first episode, I was like, that shit. Never watched another episode after episode 1. Picard was coming out, I was like, oh man, I cannot wait. Well, I'm watching this. I struggled through that first season to even finish it, and I completely skipped season 2. And it really wasn't anything to me to miss those. I'm not that way with Star Wars. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it just because it's Star Wars, and then I'm more than likely probably gonna hate it because it's Disney Star Wars, but I'm at least gonna give it a chance because I'm such a huge fan.
Right. Well, I mean and here's the thing: even if, as fans, we're at the point where we refuse to support anything that Disney is putting out, that doesn't mean that we can't still enjoy the stuff that we had. Like there's no way. Like I have not purchased any new Marvel or DC comics in a couple of years now, but I'll still regularly go back and read my back issues of stories that I love and characters that I love. I'll do the same thing with Star Wars. I replay KOTOR. In fact, I just replayed KOTOR back this summer, and I'm in the process of replaying KOTOR 2. Mm-hmm. I've played through Jedi Fallen Order, I think 6 times now.
Such a good game.
I freaking love that game so much.
The ending, such a sweet ending.
That ending, I lost my. I could rant about. I could talk about.
Unexpected.
I could. Well, the thing is, I didn't play the game. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna do it. I didn't get the chance to play that game at launch. I played it like 4 months later.
So you knew the spoilers?
No, I somehow managed to avoid every single spoiler for that game,
lucky.
And I streamed my entire first playthrough of the game. And when I did my final stream, when I beat the game and Vader shows up, I lost my freaking mind.
Yeah,
and I was like,
it was so unexpected. I was like, what? What's happening here?
The second he showed up, I was like, oh, this is that kind of game. We're all about to actually die. Like, there's no sequel. We are dying right now, and you barely make it out. And I freaking love that game so much. But, you know, I'll go back and I'll read the old EU novels, and I'll still watch the 6 films. Like, there's nothing stopping me. There is nothing that Disney could do to remove my love for the stuff that came before they got their grimy hands on it. They don't have that power.
No, it's like, what's the phrase? Giving people free rent in your head.
Yeah.
It's like Disney can't go and take back the memories. You know, I've never had to ham it up for my distaste in a certain few movies that we've talked about here on the channel from the Star Wars franchise. But I still think back to Christmas '96 and how great it was to get the Millennium Falcon. Or, you know, when I was sick in the 4th grade and I had an off day, my mom bought me a copy of Rogue Squadron to cheer me up, and it was fucking fantastic.
That game's awesome too.
Yes, dude. For me, I am ride or die Star Wars, but I'm all about the pilots, the rebellion, versus the Empire. The Jedi's fine, but like I just like Luke Skywalker. To me, the Jedi are awesome, but they're a small part of the universe. I don't like when they're the focal point of everything because they're just like superheroes.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit more of a Han Solo guy.
Same
with the OT.
Same,
but I love Luke Skywalker. You know. Like
the prequels is what made me fall in love with the Jedi.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker, man. Not my favorite anymore, but like I said, what a great character of optimism and hope. And that's kind of how I felt when they would tear down Luke. It's like trying to not necessarily attack white guys or whatever. It's like, I think it's attacking the optimistic human spirit that brings us all together. And
like why would you not want to keep that kind of spirit of that character alive moving forward?
The man with the greatest hope in the galaxy, so much hope and belief in good that he saw that even his father, whom had been a genocidal maniac, could be redeemed.
Yeah.
But his nephew has a bad dream, so he's got to try and kill him.
Inconsistent writing.
That was the most unbelievable thing about any of the sequel trilogy. And again, I'm not a Skywalker guy specifically, but I appreciate the character. I love the character because he represents kind of this gold standard of the hero's journey in modern media. And he's very much a relatable character, and he goes through a good arc. There's nothing to dislike about the character unless you're like, okay, yeah, in A New Hope he starts out kind of annoying, whatever. But he grows. He's got an arc. But that just him going from being that hopeful and believing that strongly in redemption to trying to kill his nephew because his nephew had a bad dream. Like, really? Like, that is not, you're not doing a hard sell right now.
Yeah.
No, why the fuck are people so lazy? Is it really hard to cross-reference? Doesn't there all these people at Lucasfilm like Pablo Hidalgo that are supposed to be checking for these things?
I don't know if that dude even knows what he's doing. He's supposed to be the all-knowing Star Wars lore guy.
He doesn't act like it.
Yeah, but he does not act like it at all. I mean, good God, man. If I was there from the start of the the Galaxy Star Cruiser Hotel, the Galaxy's Edge theme park. I literally would have been like, no, you cannot do this. This is not going to bring people in, in the sequel trilogy. Like, I would have gave so much pushback on that. I don't know.
Well, it's because we've had this conversation before. It's because the people that they give these projects to, they put it in the creative positions, whether it's the writers, the directors, whatever, they don't have any interest whatsoever in playing in somebody else's pre-established sandbox. They don't want to play in George Lucas's sandbox. They don't want to play in the sandbox of all the writers that contributed to the EU after him that truly expanded the universe. George Lucas, he kind of laid the foundation, but it was the writers that he entrusted the EU to that really gave us the Star Wars universe, actually.
Yeah.
People don't realize this. Yes, you can sing George Lucas's praises, but he did a small fraction of the world building for the Star Wars universe. You can be mad about it, but that's the facts. But he laid the foundation, and he set up the rules, and that's important. But the people that they put into these creative positions nowadays in Hollywood, they don't have any interest in playing in that sandbox.
No.
They don't want to do it. They want to do their Star Wars movie. They want to do their Luke Skywalker. No, I don't want your Luke Skywalker. I don't want your Star Wars. I want Luke Skywalker and Star Wars. I don't have any interest in whatever the hell you're trying to sell me. Just give me the thing. And it's an ego, a narcissistic arrogance that these people have. They see these as vanity projects. It's I get to attach my name to Star Wars, and to hell with the fans and all the history and love and passion that is supposed to be attached to that, right?
Yeah.
But they're not.
Nope.
I like how you said the point about people want their versions. Like, unless you're John Carpenter or somebody that like really deserves having your name above the title, your version of like something this pre-established means dick. Like, for all the directors that want to put their own artistic vision on something, if you're going to play in the Star Wars wheelhouse, you should play in the Star Wars wheelhouse. Because, like, the audience is ready for more when it's good, and if you give us something that's antithetical to Star Wars, well, we're ready to cash out on it. So, so I wanted to ask you guys, we have a Star Wars show dropping in 2 weeks, which is so exciting that we're thinking about it every minute.
Is it that close?
Yeah, the first.
Yeah, March 1st.
Gosh, okay. All right.
Are you excited for it, Nick?
Excited? No. Looking forward to seeing what they're gonna do with it? Yes. I like Mando. Seasons 1 and 2. I had very strong criticisms with several episodes, several characters, but overall, the overarching story of it, I wasn't really overly or hugely offended by any of it. Like, oh my God, this is destroying Star Wars. It was okay, and some of it was good. I found some of it entertaining. I found some of it funny. The visuals and stuff, the acting, some of it was good, some of it was bad. I could take and leave a lot of it, but I'm interested to see where they're going with the whole Mandalorian storyline. For those that watched Clone Wars and Rebels, there's probably going to be a lot of tie-ins from those animated shows that are going to take place in season 3 here. And from my understanding, there's also a lot of surprises, sort of like very similar to Luke showing up at the end of the final episode of season 2. We're going to get some other big reveals and big surprises with season 3. I think me and Coach were talking about this the other day. Our generation was, of course, the OT. The next generation was the prequels. This generation is not the sequel trilogy. It's Mando and Grogu.
Well, it's because it's the only thing that's come out of Disney in terms of like movie or TV projects. that has had any true excitement around it,
Yeah.
and fairly universal. There's a lot of legitimate criticism, again, from people who are old school EU fans. There's a lot of stuff that's playing a little fast and loose with the lore,
Yeah.
though not to the same extent that we saw with the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
You could see that there was a lot of dialing that back,
Mhm.
and they were a lot more selective with that, which I can appreciate. But it was the first thing where it's just like, okay, this is, yeah, there are a couple of, there like 2 episodes from both of the first seasons that if you removed them, not only would nothing change, but the show would just be better for it, because they were mostly useless episodes. They just felt like filler. So just get rid of those, and you have overall after that a pretty solid show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amazing? No, but solid and fun. And that was something that was missing from Star Wars ever since Disney bought it. Fun.
Yeah. Like when I watched Andor, I was like, boring. Don't care. When I was watching Kenobi, I was like, this isn't how it's supposed to be.
God.
This
Especially
is
if you've
terrible.
read the Kenobi novel and know better.
Yes. Yeah. And so I was just frustrated with Kenobi. I was bored out of my mind with Andor. And I know there's a lot of people out there that really liked Andor, and that's fine. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Book of Boba Fett was just a freaking train wreck that was just silly,
it was all
nonsensical, just crap, minus the 2 Mando episodes in it.
Yeah, the only redeeming episodes in the entire series had nothing to do with Boba Fett and his own freaking show. What was the irony of that? Like when because I watched, and I'll make sure to put this out there. The moment that Disney fired Gina Carano and that information came out, I canceled my Disney Plus subscription. I have been able to keep up on this stuff, and that's as far as I'll go with that. Disney does not get my money any longer. But when I got to that episode where Mando shows up in Book of Boba Fett, I was like, what? Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Because there was something about...
The show had just elevated.
Yeah, exactly. There was something that... You can have legitimate criticisms of Favreau, but there was something that he understood, at least on a sciential level, when it came to The Mandalorian, where he knew how to capture that chill, that fun, that excitement. The second that Din walks into that kind of like butcher back room area in that episode of Book of Boba Fett, and you hear the whistle of that theme song for The Mandalorian, I got chills. I was like, oh, what? And I kind of looked at myself first. I was like, am I actually excited right now?
Yeah. Because the whole show before that, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is so dumb." And then we get that, and I'm just like, "Okay, now I'm starting to like what I'm getting here."
Yeah, and so in that regard, to answer your question, Jeff, for myself, I'm looking forward to Mando season 3 as well. I'm not over the moon like I am for Jedi Survivor, which will come out in at the end of April, and I'll be playing and streaming the hell out of that. But I'm looking forward to it enough in that, just like Nick said, I want to see what they do with it. I'm interested. I'm curious, and a lot of people have had disparate angles on this with them linking him and Grogu back together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was ultimately going to be the smart move. Now, there's, I think, a balance that's going to need to be struck here, because I ultimately, as much as I love the kid, this is called The Mandalorian. And so I am expecting, as somebody who is primarily an Old Republic Star Wars fan, I have certain expectations if you're talking about Mandalorians. These are the most badass warriors on the planet. They waged war successfully against the Republic and against the Jedi until Revan stepped in and whooped their ass. But that's a completely other thing. So I need, and it's imperative, that you have Mandalorians kicking legitimate ass in this season of this. And
from the trailer, it looks like we might get some of that.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I'm seeing a bunch of Mandalorians here. This is cool, and they're all getting ready to fight a battle together. I'm good with this. There's going to be this precarious tightrope that they're going to have to walk in this. And I think Favreau can do it. It's whether or not he actually does. So the balance that needs to be struck is balancing the narratives between Din, I guess, redeeming himself in his Black Watch's orders eyes, and him being a badass, along with the subplot that we're inevitably going to see with the Darksaber and with Bo-Katan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the other plot being keeping that bond and leveraging that bond between him and Grogu, because there are people that don't like the kid, and I get it.
Yeah.
You just want the Mandalorian. That's fine. I don't criticize people for that. But I think that what makes the Mandalorian show attractive is that there's that's the heart of the show. I think there's something really important there, but I think that you have to balance how you're utilizing it. You can't put too much focus on the kid.
Yeah.
You can it would take a really talented writer to do it, but you can balance all three of those things. And I think that if that's what we get, we could actually be up for like a really, really good show this season. I'm not trying to get my hopes up or anybody else's hopes up here, because ultimately this is still owned by Disney. But I do, because so far, as far as like live action content that Disney's put out, The Mandalorian's the only thing I've really given a damn about. And so I want to see it succeed. And I want to be able to point to that and be like, hey, so you managed to put out something that the fans enjoyed. You didn't insult the fans about it, and we supported it. So can you just like do that with the rest of it, please? Right?
I'm with you guys. I'm a little more optimistic towards the season and the possibilities and everything that could come out. I've enjoyed most of what the characters appeared in. I also really enjoy the characters' design in the world that this is of Star Wars. It looks like Star Wars. It feels like Star Wars for the most part. So, yeah, I'm always more positive on this character because I've enjoyed it since it dropped. And I hope that it will be as good as we all want it to be. At the end of the day, I think the audience just wants to be entertained and we want to have a good time. I don't really think we want to be angry. It's not good for our blood pressure. So...
Well, it's not, Jeff, you and I have had this conversation for weeks now, months really. It's not healthy for your soul to be constantly angry. You have to have some level of positivity and some level of hope. You have to find the things to latch onto, whether that's latching on to the things that were good in the past and be like, you know what, fine. Disney sucks. Disney Star Wars sucks. I'm going to talk about the stuff that I loved about Star Wars. You know? Or if it's like, hey, all right, this thing isn't perfect, but there is something of value to be found in The Mandalorian. Things like that. And it's important to criticize where criticism is valid, but it's also important to be like, all right, but this was actually fun and praiseworthy. So that we're not just stuck in the black pill negativity constantly.
Yeah.
And speaking of praise, real quick, I want to give a shout out to our friend and new member Code Black for joining the membership program here on WCBS. Code Black, thank you. Thank you for becoming a member. You have access to the WCBS emojis and stickers and the back catalog of stuff that's not available on YouTube. I'm working on an Indiana Jones video right now for you guys, so be on the lookout for that. But join our membership program. Gives you access to more content, and you always want more, and we're here to give it to you. Now, Nick, I know you got to get going in a second, so is there anything else you'd like to say, and what else you'd like to say to the audience?
Just real quick, the Liam, did you guys read the Liam Neeson article about?
Yes. What would you like to say about it?
So I 100% agree with him in what he was saying in the article. I think they are. It almost feels to me like Disney is throwing all this, shit at the wall, and whatever shit sticks, they're like, okay, let's do something with that because that one sticked. For anybody that grew up with Star Wars, there was like 13, 15 years between the OT in the prequels, and then another 15 odd years or whatever before the sequels came along. But anytime there was, and it was always a movie event, a theatrical event. And when those movies were coming out, it was an actual event. People showed up in droves in cosplay and all this, and it was this big, huge thing, and now it's just all watered down. Disney has completely ruined that big, huge event with all these Disney Plus shows, Andor and Mandalorian. Even though I'm don't hate the Mandalorian. Mandalorian's okay, but Andor and freaking Kenobi, which was just god awful, and Book of Boba Fett and all this other stuff that they're planning on doing. It needs to just stick to being that big, huge event, and it's always should be quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
And Disney, they're a corporation. Anybody that watched our sequel trilogy documentary, Robert Meyer Burnett had one of the best lines in that documentary where he said, when Disney bought Star Wars, a corporation is now in charge of that IP, and they are more concerned about profit margins and numbers and shareholders and all this other stuff that is outside of the story of Star Wars in its true story and its true form from an individual person. There's so many other things that are involved, and that sequel trilogy was completely rushed out there for money, and that's why it was garbage and the people involved in it. So that Liam Neeson article that said that, I was in complete agreement that he that they're watering it down, and I don't blame him one bit.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely accurate.
No, I don't disagree at all. I was actually looking up a little information about the stuff Liam Neeson's been saying lately. Like, when he was in that interview talking about it, he trashed the show, The View, afterwards. So
yeah,
Liam Neeson's a fun guy to talk. Actually, the thing is, the reason I bring it up, though, is Liam Neeson's complaint is they don't have anything interesting to talk about. They don't have anything with depth to talk about. And I think if Liam Neeson's going to be so overt, then he's a good bet for at least an actor that wants to be in quality things. He's had his time as the dad rock generic action star, but Liam Neeson is an A-list household name that his name carries respect, and I'm really glad he's so open and honest about this shit.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a top tier performer, 100%, and I will laud him for his stance and him for putting it out there. I mean, it's much easier to say things like that in 2023, to be fair, than it would be back in 2016 and 2017. But still, he said what he said, and I believe him when he said it. I mean, but again, sure, yes, quality over quantity every day of the week and twice on Sundays. That said, if I said this earlier in the show, if Disney had been putting out the quantity of the Star Wars projects that they have been, but they were all of a high quality, we wouldn't have anything to bitch about.
No.
But they were, mostly crap.
No, Nick, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. Folks, if you want more of his awesome content, make sure you guys are subscribed to the EchoBaseNetwork channel. Nick, what do you guys got coming out over there soon?
So I will actually be out of town for the next couple of days. Me and Mexican Iron Man are going to a tactical training class with our guns and rifles and stuff, which should be fun.
Cool. I always forget they let him over the border.
Yeah, but I will be back this weekend for our Saturday night stream. Coach has got some videos coming out. We'll definitely be hitting the Mandalorian when it comes out. We're actually doing Picard season 3 with Robert Meyer Burnett, and so we'll probably have him on this weekend. But yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff on Patreon and in the main channel, and just doing our thing. Same old. It's always a pleasure though being here with you guys, world class bullshitters. I was a fan of this channel before I even became a content creator. So I've been watching Jeff for a long time, and it's always a pleasure to get an invite from you and be on here with you guys. So thank you for that.
Dude, it's a blast to have you. I'm a fan of EchoBaseNetwork as well. I mean, I've lent my voice to the documentary on Hoth, so I really believe in what you guys put out there.
Yep, that thing's still getting views. to this day. It's one of those videos that it literally 10 years from now it can still get views. You know,
that's because it was well written.
Yeah,
so, you guys did a good job.
Appreciate it.
All right, folks. Well, we're going to say goodbye to Nick, but if you guys, like I said, if you want more, and you know you do, make sure you're subscribed to Echo Base Network on YouTube, follow them on Twitter, and wherever else you can find them on social media. Nick, anything else you'd like to say?
Nope, that'll do it. Thanks for the invite. Love seeing you guys. You guys be sure to smash that like button. And thank you to everybody that's giving super chats tonight to this great channel. And I'll see you guys next time.
It was great to have you, Nick. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Dude, this has been so fun. This has been another fun night.
Another banger.
Yeah, dude, why don't we check in with the audience, and we'll see where we're at for tonight. So, let me hit the good old refresh button, and we'll reconvene. So, our friend TraceXL, who's been very patient, said Karen Gillan is actually very attractive, even in her Nebula costume. How they managed to make her look like a dude is beyond me. No need for that. Have you heard that Karen Gillan gave an update to the situation?
No.
All right. We have some information. Would you like me to read it?
Let's hear it.
So let me pull up an image of the pose, if I still have the tab open. I don't, so don't worry about it. But this is what Karen Gillan had to say about the pose. So, after Karen Gillan's Nebula drew the ire of many because of an awkward pose on the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 poster, the MCU actress shared her thoughts on the look. And this is what she said in a TikTok video. Okay, can anybody tell me what I was thinking when I decided to pose like this on an international worldwide poster that will remain forevermore? I remember doing this pose and thinking, I look pretty cool here, so I take full responsibility for this choice. But oh my god, what am I leaning against? What is my elbow doing? Maybe I should double down and make this pose a thing. It started for so long ago, I was like, oh, maybe I'm reaching for a weapon to take it out and fight someone. And then I remembered how I'm not wearing a holster or anything that would carry a weapon, so it's not that either. You'll be seeing that pose again somewhere else, somewhere you least expect it. Well, aren't you excited for more of that pose, Andrew? Because I am.
I'm not. I mean, Karen Gillan is, like I said, she's a beautiful young woman, but that ain't it. So I don't need more of that, honestly. I think I'm good.
I'll take her word for it, but I'm just like, who is this? Just the head looks photoshopped onto me. But there we go. That's the international poster for Nebula. I'm glad Karen Gillan doesn't like it either.
So awful. Yeah, this is absolutely awful.
So we have another super chat from our friend Casey Kirschengestner, who says, I stopped watching Loki when female Loki came in. I didn't like Sylvie myself, but I wasn't mad because I knew about female Loki in the comic. I just don't like multiple variations of the same character on screen.
Exactly. I had more of an issue with that than anything. But Sylvie did seem to constantly know what she was doing, and Loki was, kind of a bumbling buffoon, which was annoying because we know Loki to be incredibly conniving and intelligent. Like, where did all of that go? Where is the Loki from Avengers Assemble? Where is that character?
Now, Shrubbles08 wants an Uncle Ben and a Jamaram, which I'll give you because I wanted to talk about a message that popped up. So let me press this. We get our Uncle Ben and a Jamaram in here. Folks, I always love whenever you ask for my favorite button because I can use it Jamaram anytime I want. Thank you, Ram Jamaram. And also, here is your Uncle Ben button.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Uncle Ben.
The best, I think I said this last week, the best part about that clip is him crying at the end of it for the last second.
Oh, I love it too. Poor Toby. His face became a meme, but I feel like we've all accepted and loved the meme now. So it's like, even the sillier parts of Spider-Man, everyone's just like, yeah, but Tobey Maguire's great, so let's just have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I like that. Thank you, Shrubbles08. Adama, thank you very much for another generous super chat. Did you guys see that Hasbro is releasing Black Series figures for Mara Jade, Bastilla Shan, and Darth Malak this year?
Yes, because I already have the Mara Jade Black Series. It's actually sitting on my shelf. And I have Bastilla and Malak both pre-ordered.
Oh, okay.
If it's from Knights of the Old Republic, I'm getting it.
I saw the release, the press release. I see every press release for every action figure. It's kind of my thing. If you can't tell by this point, I like action figures and toys. So I'm always up on this stuff just to check it out. Wasn't going to jump to pre-order any of the stuff that you've talked about, but I do, I don't judge. I don't have any issue with that at all. I think people should get what they like and what makes them happy. If Wolverine action figures make me happy, I'm going to continue to buy them. So,
agreed.
Now, our friend Trace XL sends in a very fun super chat that says, Jamel's response to people thinking that Titania and She-Hulk as a whole was ass sauce sums up how Hollywood feels about actual fans. To paraphrase, fuck you guys, I got paid.
Fair enough.
I didn't even know she said that, but from the outset, that seems like what She-Hulk is about. Fuck you, you subscribed to Disney Plus, and now you're gonna like it. Oh well. So, Andrew, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
We had a pretty filled show as far as the slate for the notes that we drummed up. I'm trying to think if there was anything that we didn't honestly cover that would actually be prevalent this week. You had mentioned something in the chat about asking about how bad Captain Marvel actually was.
Oh yeah, in terms of the the Marvels. That's what I wanted to ask you about, the release date getting pushed back. I got a big video coming out about it, so I don't want to bury my lead or opinion on it. So I'm just going to ask you the question and direct the audience to wait for the video for mine.
So, my opinion on them pushing back the Marvels, to me, that screams a few things. One, it's in line with them, spreading out and parsing out the MCU projects moving forward, because again, they are spending an exorbitant amount of money on these films and on these projects. And something tells me that is another overproduced project that probably also needs reshoots, much like a lot of their other projects that have come out in this phase and the last. So that's one of those movies that I think is going to be another major measure of the level of general audience participation and general audience interest and investment at this point. Because remember, love it or hate it, the first Captain Marvel film made over $1 billion. Now, or so we're told. Yes, there's still talks and theories about how those numbers may have been fudged. Whatever. Let's just call it that they made it $1 billion. Fine. They sandwiched it in between the biggest cliffhanger and the biggest finale in cinematic history. Fair enough. If there was a movie that was going to get the benefit of that, and that was it. That said, this next one has nothing like that to lean on and nothing like that to fall back on. A lot of people went and saw Captain Marvel because they were led to believe that it would give them context and important information for Endgame. All it really did was make us happier when she got punched out of the film.
Oh, hold on a second. Did you say she gets punched out of the film? I could have sworn I had heard about this somewhere.
Yeah, she got knocked the fuck out.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
Thank you. Yes, that was a layup. That was deliberate, and I'm glad you picked up what I was putting down. I don't see this. Team. I agree with this. I agree with this entirely. I don't think this movie does well, honestly. And I think they know it. I think they know that this movie is not going to meet expectations. Because, again, the first one only did what it did, and that's under the assumption that it legitimately did what it did, because of the two films that it was sandwiched between and the context that people were led to believe it would give them. This film has none of that. We're already seeing, they were seeing diminishing returns and diminishing interest in the MCU during Phase 4. That's only going to increase with Phase 5. People don't, you could try and make the argument of, okay, so now we know what the, I guess, for lack of a better term, end game is, and that's Kang. All right, but so far, nothing that the MCU is putting out has given people a reason to be invested again.
No, they haven't. And I'm with you about they don't have faith in this movie. But as I said, I don't want to bury the lead completely to get people to watch the video.
Yes.
But there's so much going on with just such a little, let's move it. And the story starts a long time ago, and it will end this November, and I can't wait to find out what happens. No, I can wait to see the movie. Don't really want to, but I can't wait to see all the press and the hype around this film, because it's going to be the ugly dumpster fire we've been waiting for.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to the Access and Chill media talking it up and nobody going to see it.
I'm going to have so much fun with that. And this is not in the video. I'm just throwing this out there. Maybe Disney knows how much shit they're going to get for Indiana Jones 5. They needed a bigger break to deal with the backlash. There you go.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Oh, guys, look forward to that video. When's that dropping?
Probably Thursday, maybe tomorrow. It's already written. Going to record it and take care of business. So, yeah. Folks,
I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. I'm excited to make it. I enjoy writing. I enjoy producing these videos, and I enjoy streaming. So I'm sad that it seems like tonight's episode is coming to an end, but I feel like we've covered a ton of stuff. What say you?
I am in accordance with that. I agree entirely. We managed to cover a lot in a fairly short amount of time.
I like these meaty shows. So, folks, keep joining us each week for some nice meaty content. Sorry, we're not vegans here on this channel.
Yeah, no, I don't just eat what food eats.
No, not at all. But yeah, folks. Andrew, what would you like to say before we put this baby to bed?
Guys, I would like you to make sure that you keep an eye on your YouTube notifications for that Marvels video that Jeff's going to be dropping here within the next couple of days. And also keep an eye on Mary Mayhem's channel. We're prepping our next Potter Watch stream as well, where we're going to be covering some more in-depth Harry Potter Wizarding World content. It's a smaller stream because obviously we're trying to carve out a niche here and kind of find our audience, but we're dedicated to providing actual in-depth content that you're not going to just find on any normie channel. So we have a lot of fun with that. And we always bring on guests that are also knowledgeable on the franchise here in the community as well.
Folks, check out Mary Mayhem's channel. She's a co-host in limbo, former co-host, whatever you want to call it. She's co-host of the channel, the High Council, good friend of the channel, and always fun to troll. If you love her, offer her some pancakes. You're going to get a great reaction.
Or a WWE title belt.
Oh, yeah. That's, you know what we should all do is we should crowdfund Mary a custom-made title belt.
Oh, my gosh. With her M logo on it.
I'll do the design work if we want to raise the funds, and then we'll get it made and present it to Mary.
Oh my god, that might be the greatest maniacal idea ever.
Let's do it. I mean, I got buttons to troll my best friend. I made a comic to soothe my pain from a terrible movie. Why not? I'm into those sorts of things. Well, you never know what you're going to get with World Class Bullshitters, but you're going to have a good time, to say the least. So, folks, thank you for watching. I'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, check out the back catalog of content. Hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that you like what we do. And if you want more, hit the join button. Gives you access to cool features, helps out the channel, helps us grow, and gives you more content, which is what you want all the time. But from all of us here at the channel, thank you for watching. Be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other. .com.